Hey gang, and welcome to the Midnight Festival podcast. I'm one host of the two total hosts, and my name is Jade.
And I'm one of the hosts, the only other host, Cole.
And you're listening to our pilot episode.
You might hear a few audio hiccups, but don't worry about that. We're still working out the kinks.
We're going to be talking about Atlus's Persona 5, discussing mechanics and story in great detail. There will be massive spoilers, so if you haven't played the game, you're going to want to steer clear of this episode.
And we're going to just jump right on in.
Enjoy.
This is going to be the most loose podcast that's ever existed, I think. There's no real rhyme or reason to what we're talking about at any given time.
Yeah, we'll just be moving topics. We'll be switching topics, covering lots of topics.
I have a lot of big, huge things, giant, massive things to say about the mechanics of this game.
Well, let's get right into it.
Like what?
First thing, what is it?
First thing, guns are fucking stupid. Can we be real? I think I remember you specifically when the game came out, you were like, holy shit, guns. I love guns in every single game.
Mm-hmm.
I love guns. I love first-person shooters is what you always happen to say to yourself. And this is, guns are bad. Guns are stupid as hell in this game.
All right. First of all, two things. All right. The first thing is I'll never say that. And I remember thinking guns are cool, but I don't like first-person shooters, and I don't always like guns in games. But in Shin Megami Tensei games, guns have been kind of a staple, so I was kind of pumped that it was coming back.
SMT4, I'm liking how guns work. Slightly better than I like how they work in Persona 5.
What's the difference? To me, it seems pretty similar.
It is very similar, except that
there's different ammo types.
There's different ammo types in SMT4, which give you different customization, and it's also sort of... The guns have different types of fire, but it also takes up your turn. And you can stat your character to be strong with guns or strong with, swords. And it's a lot different in Persona where they still take up your turn, but you can, shoot however many times you want per how much is in your magazine,
mm-hmm.
or your clip, whichever of the two. And it hits for nothing. It hits for nothing. It doesn't do any damage. Pretty much all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty piss damage.
I'm not entirely sure if that's a hard mode thing. Are guns just bad in hard mode? I suppose that it's an oversight on my part, but even going into the New Game Plus on normal difficulty, they still don't hit nearly as hard as just auto attacks with a really good gun.
Yeah, it's like half as much damage, basically.
Per shot. And that's, in some ways reasonable. It's not exactly realistic,
mm-hmm.
I don't think my knife should be hitting for way more than my gun, but for the purpose of game balance, I sort of get it. But I think it comes down to the fact that you can shoot one bullet at a time and just change targets whenever you want.
Yeah.
Your turn doesn't end if you miss or anything. And then you just can't carry that much ammo, at all. If you want to do the same amount of damage as your knife, or whatever character it is, because most characters have that, big clip of just, measly little bullets that don't do a lot.
Yeah.
Save for, Haru. She's the one who has, the only reasonable gun because it hits everybody for, auto attack damage. And then An has an interesting gun where it's just rapid fire, can't choose the target.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think those are my two favorite guns just because they work really interesting. But everyone else has pretty much the same gun. But their damage values are slightly different, but it's the same result at the end. But the thing is, especially during a regular game playthrough before New Game Plus, when you just are kind of scraping by all the time, it seems like if you wanted to do an auto attack's worth of damage, a basic attack worth of damage, you'd be shooting half your clip or the whole clip, depending on how updated your gun is.
Yeah.
And before you get Shinya and his double ammo perk, that's a fourth of your total ammo for that character in the entire palace. And that's fucked. That's fucked up. What's the purpose? What's the purpose of guns? How often do you find yourself using your actual gun is the question.
Only when there's the purest weakness. I mean, I definitely would never use it as a main attack thing. I hope that they change that. It'd be cool to be able to, spec your guy and use guns as as your main thing if you wanted to. But yeah, it's just for some reason I guess it goes back to like Persona 3 had that really weird physical attack system where it was like 3 types of physical attacks, and Pierce was one of them.
Yeah.
And then it was like Yukari, I think, or maybe did Ken too have Pierce?
Didn't use Ken. Fuck Ken.
Yeah, fuck Ken. But yeah, it's like if you wanted to hit someone's weakness with just your auto attack, you just had to have Yukari on your team and hope that her AI was like, all right.
Your main character had some personas too that could do Pierce.
Yeah.
Like,
so I wonder why, because in Persona 4 they didn't have Pierce. I think it was just
all physical.
Yeah. So then I wonder why they went, what's up? Let's add Pierce in this game again, and then have a whole new. I like guns. I don't find there's a big problem, and especially once Shinya comes in. Guns are the best.
They're pretty strong.
They're like, really good. Yeah.
Especially like the initial hold-up thing and the fact that MC's gun just does more damage. From that, I think it's his rank 10. You just pierce resistances and whatever.
Yeah.
That makes guns a lot more viable, but I still think that really the only time that you pull out your gun is when something is weak to it, or you'll never use it. And that seems like not quite redundant, but like there's no point to it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose in a way. I mean, it's pretty interesting that they added a bunch of different elemental, like, new elements too. When they just had their 4 basic ones before. Now they have a new, they added another type of physical attack damage thing too with Pierce, but like, I think it just adds another layer to the combat.
With gun skills, I'd absolutely agree, because it gives you just that much more choice in how you want to, customize your personas and which ones you're carrying. And with skills, it works a lot better. I think it's just your gun sidearm. I don't think that it makes a lot of sense to have it, since you only really pull it out when something is weak and you just want to shoot everything and get them all down.
Isn't that the same as Agi then, essentially?
But that uses a resource.
Yeah, ammo too for guns.
But the problem with ammo is you can only replenish it with one item in the whole game, and you don't get access to it
Shinya
way later in the game. And it's optional with Shinya, and that means that guns don't really have any relevance until then. And even then, you still have to use half of your day and however many items it takes to craft that. It's completely unreasonable compared to SP, which is like hard to come by earlier in the game, but is much more easily replenished at all times. And you have all your different characters. It's spread across all your different personas. You have so many more uses for SP. That SP pool can be all sorts of different things, including a gun attack. Well, HP,
yeah.
But with your bullets, it's for one thing only. So you never take it out unless you're doing that one thing. And so imagine the scenario: you take guns out of the game, you take out the gun damage type, and all those characters in the game that were weak to gun are just instead weak to physical. And you're doing essentially the same thing. You're just autoing everybody to get them down just for an all-out attack. And you already do that. Yeah.
Well, it adds a little bit more management with ammo, though, in that case. I mean, I remember having a couple times where I was scraping by, like, An was, like, the only person who had any ammo. I remember specifically I was like, oh, shit, I gotta get to the next safe room. And it was, like, juggling my shots between all the characters I thought was kind of fun, because I was like, oh shit, Joker has 2 shots left, and then An was like, what's up, I got 12 shots, and I was trying to take down a team of whatever was weak, like Huepo or something like that, and I was just getting it was like getting close. I like guns in that respect, but I definitely can see how they could be redundant, but I personally don't find an issue with it. It's just another layer of something that you have to manage.
Balancing all your characters out with their ammo, definitely probably one of the highlights of guns, I think. It's really the only thing it has going for it.
Yeah, like base guns without any of the cool Oda perks.
Yeah.
Like, that's the more fun part of using one for sure. And I personally like the kinetic, like you're firing, you're like tapping X, like
there's nothing wrong with that. You can't go wrong with that.
But yeah. It's like guns don't really open up, or you don't really see the potential of them, and they're not really that useful until you start start working on Shinya's confidant Link thing.
And it's just kind of sad, I think. I like gun skills. That makes a lot of sense. And I don't know. There's a few different things that you could do for guns, I think. I think Haru's gun is really interesting, the most interesting of them all, since it hits everything, and you only have one shot, so you have the potential to miss.
Mm-hmm.
And she's only got, 6 rounds. That's, the best balanced gun, I think. But everybody else's is just a pea shooter that literally is just for knocking shit down.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of like if you were to late game be carrying Agi instead of Agi Dine just to knock things down. But the difference is Agi Dine actually does some fucking damage, so.
Yeah, if they keep carry over guns into the next iteration of Persona, they should definitely, which I hope they do, but it'd be interesting if you could do some more ammo customization, because they had the makings of that, right? You could customize your gun and say, ooh, it adds more damage at the cost of, accuracy. But it would be cooler if you could customize ammo types, or maybe craft certain types of ammo, like, hey, what's up, I got fire shots or whatever, like you could cover your elemental weakness, or maybe you could craft Haru type shots for your main guy.
That would be really cool.
If you could just rotate those around, or even rotating guns between people, if you wanted to have a submachine gun on your guy. That would be interesting if you could do that.
And they should have definitely had better. EY's entire thing should have just been better. You can't tell what it's going to become.
Yeah.
So it's just a risk, and then half the time it's like, oh, I don't actually want that.
It's just a couple extra points of damage is basically all you're getting out of it.
And we've established, guns don't do a whole lot
guns
of
are pretty
damage.
piss. But yeah, I mean, hopefully they keep cementing more, making the combat system more streamlined and better. So hopefully they'll, make guns more of a viable thing in the future.
And another thing is gun skills being, I like those more because all of the different resistance types, you can still cover those without having to manage your ammo with gun skills, but there aren't as many things that play off of them, I felt. I only saw trigger happy being for your sidearm gun, so that doesn't count for your gun skills, but I only saw the basic, gun boost and gun amp skills.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the other elements, you have, and I really liked this addition, is that you have status effects from, the main 4, freeze and stuff, and then nuke skills would play off of those, and then status effects, you do more damage if you use a psi skill. All those had these things going on that added another layer to it, and then had extra skills that made them better.
Oh, your technical hits and stuff like that?
I guess specifically for, fire, you could get a skill that would increase the chance of burn.
Oh, right.
Which then also would play off of nuke. You could just swap into something that has nuke skills.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're more likely to inflict burn, so you're more likely to get chances to get that nuke off.
Yeah, that hit, that extra damage.
But gun just had do more damage. There wasn't anything else for the gun skill types that did a lot, so there was never really much incentive to going to something that had gun skills, besides just doing raw damage, and then physical usually covered that anyway.
Yeah.
Because you have apt pupil and adverse resolve, things like that play it into different situations. And it seems kind of not quite an oversight, but just kind of strange that gun skills don't have all that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I didn't even realize that. I mean, there's so many things that play off of, doing extra damage when... Does that work if a guy's confused and you hit them with a gun skill? Does it do technical damage to them? Or is that just physical?
It counts for gun as well.
But yeah, that they have two separate, apt pupil is only for physical skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they have trigger happy, which is the same...
It's the same just for your sidearm.
But, oh, okay.
So it doesn't count for one-shot kill and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just kind of strange. I mean, I like trigger happy, that sidearm skill. That is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that gun skills needed more. And I remember, making different personas that had, cripple, which was additional damage, and gun skills, but I just never found an opportunity to use them over anything else.
Yeah.
I had them and I really wanted to use them because gun itself is just an interesting, weapon type and skill type. You just don't you find that elemental coverage just usually trumps it, or something crazy like Haso Tobi is just going to annihilate everything.
Right. That's just gun skills, I guess. It's too bad that all those, that whole portion of the combat's kind of not fleshed out as well as it could be, but I appreciate that they put it in.
Yeah, the fact that it's there is okay.
A step in the right direction.
I definitely don't see doing gun builds aside from, like, for fun.
Yeah.
Is the problem. It doesn't seem efficient in any way. And it's just kind of a letdown. And I suppose from there, I think that it's time to address one of the biggest issues in the game is probably, and maybe it's just me, the amount of skill slots you have on your persona. Did you ever notice eight skill slots wasn't enough?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you get passive skills and that's like, those eat up. I mean, in order to do decent amount of damage, you have to have some boost skills or amps or anything, and that can eat up, one or two slots right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want any sort of regenerative skill, then you're eating up another slot. If you want to do crits, it sucks. Yeah, it definitely was. I don't recall how many slots. I think it's always been 8 though.
It's always been 8.
But I feel like there's more skills in this game.
There's. I
mean,
aside
from just the new attack elemental skills, there's like more, passive, sort of skills and stuff like that.
You're definitely, absolutely 100% right there. And there's no other more clear indicator than your party characters.
Yeah.
You can't decide, and I think I said this about Haru before, is that she is the only person who really has gun skills.
Yeah.
And she's the only, because everybody just has one elemental coverage. She's got Psi. So you get the boost and amp for both of those elements, and that right there is 8 skills.
Yeah.
And that gives her absolutely no wiggle room for, like, Amrita Shower, which is so good, and, that would make her a good support, just that one skill. But if you do that, you're sacrificing 25% bonus damage for something.
And then she even has both of the repel, physical, and magic, too.
And she's the only party character.
So it's like, yeah, that's interesting. I suppose that's why they have the confessional booth.
But that doesn't solve any problems.
It doesn't solve any problems, but, if you wanted to go down it sucks. You're going to have to plan ahead on what you want your party makeup to be. Like, how do you want to spec this character? I think that, it adds a little bit of more of a challenge, but I don't know if it's apparent, like, if they meant to do that. Like, it seemed, what would you have 9 skills then? Or 10 skill slots? 10 seems like overkill,
That's the difficult thing, is figuring out a solution, because you can't just add more skill slots, because you just imagine all your personas that are in your game and you just slap on 2 more like beefy passives and it's just over. Part of the solution to that end game is consolidated things like Cool Breeze. You don't really necessarily need Invigorate and Regenerate and whatever if you just are finishing battles and have Cool Breeze. Not that those are parallels to each other, but with Cool Breeze you get coverage for HP and SP regen, so that's 1 free slot for a passive.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of that. You don't find a lot of consolidation for passive skills, and there are so fucking many in this game.
And if you hope to do any sorts of damage, you have to have those amp and boost skills. Otherwise, you're just going to fall behind.
Especially
that's my guy. I was like a support guy.
Your main character?
My guy was just support guy, because I just didn't have... I was like, got to keep my SP up, use those skills. I had like a crit thing on one of my guys, and then I was just like debilitating guys. And then I would just save like on and all my other guys. They had their boost skills and would specialize in whatever element. And I was like, I'll leave all that stuff to you guys. You guys do all the damage, and I'll just make sure that everyone doesn't die and all that.
It's funny that I feel as though maybe the main character kind of leans towards that support.
He definitely
aspect.
Is like a fill in the blanks type. That's the cool thing about your wild card ability, is that you can, and I feel like that's what you're supposed to do.
But in this game, they give you a lot more tactical leeway in that respect, where especially Hifumi's skill, where you can switch people out, is like essential to making the combat just flow. Switching, because then you have all your coverage there. Normally you're like, oh shit, I gotta bring 3 people that I think will just be useful in all situations, and that's how it was in the other games. And so you kind of found the other people falling behind. But definitely in this game, it was like a Final Fantasy X sort of situation where I'm like, everyone is useful.
Yeah.
And that means that my character doesn't need to like have to pick up so much slack, and you can really have a lot more freedom. And I kind of had some support stuff going on too, because everyone else has got all these damage skills. There's not enough room for anything else, and they can't learn anything they want.
Yeah. I like that aspect because, I mean, in Persona 3 and Persona 4, I think I've said this before, where I just had the starting party, and that was just, there they were. I got my healer, my physical guy, and like my elemental strong guy. And then there's me, and I could get everything else, but in this game, they make it so much more viable to actively switch your party out, not only in battle, but just even when you're in the dungeon walking around, like you can do it at any time. And that to me made the combat a lot more enjoyable, because I was switching out, I was using different characters and finding their little quirks. It was cool to I hadn't used Haru in a long time, and like seeing her little finisher thing was cool. Like for the first, I don't think I got to see anybody else's stuff like that in Persona 4 and 3, where like they all have their little end game taunts and stuff like that, and their little animations for like waking you up if you're dizzy or taking a hit, and their combat dialogue and stuff. I probably missed all that in Persona 4 and 3 because I was just always with the same dudes, and that's probably my own fault. I mean, it's probably possible to switch out your party and be more of an active guy in that respect, but that's why I liked Persona 5, because it's a lot more streamlined in that aspect.
So it really works, I think. I'm kind of confused why you can't switch characters out until you get Hifumi. That's another skill that I think is just like they didn't need to put that behind an optional wall. Mm-hmm. Not that it's hard to get, but I think, is it her rank 10 that lets you swap on anyone's turn, not just the main character's turn?
Anyone can use their turn to switch out.
And that's a really cool thing that adds just such a good layer to the combat. I mean, it's super beneficial, of course, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of like, it's just like all the other things they introduce to you staggered throughout the game as mechanics. And I think going forward, maybe the only reason they walled it off is so they didn't overload you with all the different mechanics. And well, I doubt that's the actual reason. I'm just trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But either way, I think if they're going to go forward with Persona 6, that should be a baseline thing.
Yeah, I mean, definitely could use a little bit of elbow grease to make that better, but it's certainly a welcome addition for sure. I'm curious, since you brought that up about walling stuff off, I wonder if that's on purpose so they don't overwhelm you with stuff. But it's kind of interesting that they lock away things that you should kind of start with. And I wonder if that's to make it harder in the beginning or something. I wonder, like, I kind of like that you have to earn these abilities. And you appreciate that you get these cool-ass things that alleviate some of your combat worries and stuff like that.
And that's like a confidant thing.
Yeah.
In like a social link thing in general is in this game, especially just getting those upgrades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just thinking about Persona 4 and 3, you just got boosts. You just got boosts when you fused a persona, and that was it.
Just the XP. And in this game, it's like, I don't think they had the Arcana burst in the previous games, did they?
They did, yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Wait,
Arcana burst, that's
as in Igor's entire confidant in this game is just giving you more and more and more bonus XP for those ranks.
I don't think they did that.
And that might mean that in this game, without the first burst, you're starting at a lower baseline than the previous games. Mm-hmm. But in the end, it's still like something to gain. You gain even more. I mean, you just get so much more from social links in this game than you do in the other games.
Yeah.
And that's insane.
It makes it makes you want to go do it. Like, aside from learning about the characters more and getting more of the story of the world and learning about everybody, you're also getting these badass boosts and cool skills and all that nice stuff.
It makes you want to do it for most characters. And that's another thing that Persona 5 dropped the ball on.
Whoa, yeah?
Like, I'll probably say this for a lot of different mechanics, is that this is the big one. This is the big fuck up. But, Hifumi, we talked about, her skill seems like, why didn't they just give you that? Why is that walled off to your player, your entire team, really, as an ability, when you have other things like Shinya's opening gambit thing, where you just have your guns and you fucking mash the button and just do a bazillion damage? That doesn't seem like it's something that you should have at the beginning of the game. That's just like that's a boost.
Bonus. Yeah.
You just get that. But the other thing with Hifumi is just such a massive tactical advantage. It's like, it's objectively just so good, and adds just the way it works in combat makes you wonder why it's not given to you. And then on the side of all that, you got Oya.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna ask you two words. Why?
Yeah. Oh, she was pretty fucking useless. I don't understand. All right. Everything about Oya is so wrong because, one, she's boring.
She's really boring. Her whole confidant.
You don't want to go talk to her ever. The only time I ever went to talk to her was when I had nothing else. And, what? Her bonuses are so ridiculous because everyone else at least has some variation. It's not...
Most people,
yeah. But she's like, hey, guess what? Your detection rating is going to go down or go up at a lower rate if you get caught. Which the stealth is like...
overpowered. You are overpowered.
Guys are looking straight at you sometimes, and you're just like sitting there, and they don't get you.
And you say, "Time to get your mask.
Time to show me true form." And like, and then her next one's like, "Guess what? Guess what's coming up next? It's gonna go up even less." And then her next one's like, "All right, take a wild guess. I'll give you 3 guesses what it's gonna be."
Masaomi Kita.
It's gonna be goes up even less. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like
all the way to rank 10.
Rank 10, what is it? Is it that it doesn't go down? It doesn't go up, I mean?
It's the same fucking thing, but it says it doesn't go up. It resets overnight.
Yeah.
Roaring applause. Wow. Of all the characters, you got a spreadsheet. You're looking at all the different characters' abilities in the game. That is, like, the worst of all of them.
It's ridiculous. I think one time I was fucking up big time. I was just so out of it. I think the highest I got to was, like, 50%. I've never gotten over that unless it's, end day when you're taking the treasure.
And even then, the percentage of the awareness that they have of you in the palace is nothing. It's fuck all.
And if there are 2 things you could do at that point. You could keep going and keep ambushing guys till just lower it, because you're going to be getting in so many fights anyway. Mm-hmm. Or you just go home and then it lowers anyway. Like, what the fuck is... it's so ridiculous. I wonder if people had trouble with the stealth. Because
we both played on hard mode.
Yeah.
Right? And hard mode adds absolutely nothing to that, to the whole stealth mechanic. But the fights were just harder. So maybe we felt more incentive to ambush things.
Yeah.
But... I still have trouble believing that because it's so easy you cover so much ground, and it's so easy to just, like, the way that they designed the levels almost seems as though in a lot of areas they want you to go into cover and jump to the next place you need to go.
Yeah.
They set up enemies. Like, there's very few enemies in the game where they're in a position where you cannot ambush them from a wall.
Yeah, like the spaceport. I remember those big long-ass hallways where you just, like, have to watch them until they turn around and just, like, sprint down the hallway.
And even in that place, I specifically remember they'd have little planters on the side sometimes. And if you were patient, as in patient for, like, 10 seconds or something at most, you could just wait for them to path back to you. Oya is just like a joke. I don't get it.
She's a joke. And she's... She's Yukiko. Sorry, I had to say it. She's got Yukiko's voice actress. And I can't handle it.
And she looks like
I hate it.
She looks like Chie.
She's old Chie. It's like if Yukiko and Chie fucked, and they had a kid who grew up really fast and was drunk all the time and super annoying.
Oh my god!
That's
Wow.
Oya.
You hate her even more than I do, which is saying a lot, I think.
Yeah, I think I do. I think I do hate her more than you.
I think there was quite a few times, too, going to hang out with her where I had to fucking hang out with her again, even when I got the max little notes, got the max sweeps.
Uh-huh.
Still had to go hang out with her again in that dumbass bar. And
I like the bar because of the song only.
Yeah, sure. There's not a lot to do in the bar other than talk to her.
And listen to the song.
All right, if that's how you play Persona, then I'm not going to fault you for it.
So you're playing Persona, you're on mute. You're not listening to any of the songs?
I never ever said that, even once. I'm just saying what I'm imagining right now is you sometimes say, Crossroads, huh? Crossroads bar? I'll click it, and then you go there, and you set your controller down, and you go do something else, and you just jamming it. And I think that's an interesting way to play the game, you know? You're not progressing at all, you're just... I mean, maybe that's why your game time was like at the same as mine or something, is because you were just fucking AFK.
Yeah, because most of the time I'm way, way, way better than you at games.
Right.
So.
Yeah, definitely. No. It's something to be said coming from Persona 3 and 4. The only really relevant ones when comparing is that you didn't have these bonuses at all. So
just
it's
for
like
your team. Persona 3 didn't have any, but in Persona 4 it was like only your teammates gave you traits.
And in that game, you know, clearly that was the lesson to be had from that game is, well, that makes all the other social links kind of fucking stupid other than the story.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think we both had at least one social link in that game where it was just so boring. There's no bonuses. You just hit fast forward.
Yeah.
You know? And coming from that game to here, Oya being just some side-ass character and having a bonus at all, I mean, sure. You could paint that in a light and say, oh, yeah, you should be grateful you have this ability.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like... it's almost insulting. It's almost insulting that they think that people... and apologies to anybody who really is that bad and gets caught all the time.
And if Oya is your P5 waifu, extra
you can
apologies.
have her as your waifu. That's totally that's totally
we're not ragging on you for that. If you
would because I don't like her, but I think
if you like Oya, it's your problem.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, you can have any waifu you want, but if you think your waifu gives you better skills than 50% off of all the fucking store merchandise, then shut up. Then go away.
Yeah, exactly. Pack up.
Or
shove off.
For all of Futaba's things, they got way good at the end.
Yeah.
You know?
In the beginning, they were like, hey, sometimes she can see Mementos floor. But then it's like, hey, if you die, I got your back. And I'm like,
oh my god, Final Guard is fucking broken.
Yeah, it's
so many times I'd say. Everyone's used their Endure, and I really don't want to heal this turn, so I'm just going to hit charge. And, you know,
hope for the best.
No, Futaba will cover your ass,
is
the funny thing. She'll save everyone. And I think she had a pretty clutch one for me in the last fight. So, you know, props to Futaba being like having a much more interesting way of skill interaction than Rise, who was really similar.
Hers was only buffs, I think, right? Or could she save you if you...
She still had the... I don't remember if she gave you attack ups and stuff, but I know that she could give you the charge thing.
Yeah.
And she could restore your HP or SP a little bit. And then she had the same thing after battle. I don't think it was just backup members.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was everybody in that game. But she didn't have like the final guard thing. She didn't have the scan of the floors. You know, that's all Futaba only. And that's another, I think that's just an improvement. Because none of it's overpowered. You know, there are a couple things in the game that seemed like objectively way better than the rest of the Confidant abilities. And I think that says a lot about the game. Because that's a core mechanic. That's half the game right there, is getting the Confidant abilities. And some of them are just dog shit. Like bad.
Yeah.
And some of them are god tier. Like you would prioritize them. And in a game where it seems like you should be allowed to just hang out with who you want, you're setting yourself back by doing that sometimes, in case you do like Oya. You are making the game harder for yourself. Unless, for some reason, at the same time as liking Oya, you also get fucking caught by everybody.
Maybe it's because you like Oya that you get caught on purpose.
Like, I guess if you missed out on the introduction to the ambush from a wall mechanic at the beginning of the game, you're probably going to have a hard time, you know? Because ambushing enemies, got to take a breather. Ambushing enemies is just so good. It's so good. Your entire team gets to move first. And most battles are over by that point, even on hard mode. I'd say a huge portion of battles are over by that time.
Yeah. And
not ambushing them, your turn order is fucked. Like, especially if they hit you first and you get like stuck in the whatever the fuck situation. I can't remember what it's called. Know what I'm saying?
Surround.
You get surround.
So you've got that whole thing going on. So if you aren't already ambushing, you're already so far behind. And then you say, I need Oya.
That's important to me. You're even further behind now because there are other skills that are just better for getting yourself back on your feet in combat. Do you dig? Do you understand?
Can you say it one more time?
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I get it.
So why is that? Why do you think that is?
Why is Oya bad?
No, we already established why she's bad.
Okay.
But why do you think it is that the Confidants have such a huge disparity between their effectiveness?
I think part of it... no, never mind. That can't be. I was going to say part of it must be due to their character, but then they probably thought of the abilities first and then wrote a character around them.
You really think so?
Maybe. I don't know. Because, like, you got to think, like, everyone's Confidant abilities kind of have to do with what their character is like, you know? I mean, like, what else could... I thought Oya would have some cool bonuses, like, hey, she can change everyone's cognition of us, and everyone will think, you know, we... And I was like, hell yeah, right, that the Phantom Thieves are the strongest guys.
Yeah, that seems like an in-universe, like, if she just says, oh, Phantom Thieves are way strong. They got big muscles. And you'd think, okay, and I suppose it'd be a good time to just say this quick. What would be a good replacement for Oya's abilities? And it's like daily buffs.
You know, you pay her to write an article or something, and then the next day, your characters have like plus 50 HP additional to their maximum health. That goes away permanently for that day once it's consumed.
Right.
You know,
yeah, kind of like the fortune telling thing, except for maybe strength buffs or HP more, or something like that.
Yeah, and it seems like you could stretch that. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The scoops are just bad.
Scoops is bad.
I think that a buff of some description would have just been better. I see no logical reasoning why Oya's is like that. Like why EY's is just gun customization in tiers and like nothing else. And if gun customization isn't your thing, like if you don't use guns like me, then it's just a useless Confidant.
I used guns. I tried to use guns a lot. But even I didn't customize guns because there weren't a lot of options. It was like each gun would have like, well, I didn't get to the last tier, so I don't know, but like each gun was like, sometimes you'd only get one option. And always the accuracy goes down and you get some random effect. So I mean, gun customization, pretty piss poor. Maybe you could just customize weapons and add like cool effects on them. You know, like your swords or your knives.
Which are just like better in most cases anyway with the abilities they come with. And I think you brought up a good point, and I hate to keep going back to guns, but
the effects that you could put on guns might be to the benefit. Like, maybe that's when guns become a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because currently the gun I have in my New Game Plus run is the Cositus SP, and it has, like, 88 accuracy, which was down from what it used to be. But it has a medium chance of freeze, and I freeze stuff fairly often with it. And that could be actually useful. You could make your build work around that, but that pretty much requires you to go through EY's gun customization thing, and that seems like a lot of effort for something that isn't readily apparent.
And maybe you have to just pick a gun that's like a couple tiers lower just to pull off a status effect.
To get what you want, because if you don't want to do a freeze nuke build or something like that, then you can't use the Cositus because it only upgrades one way. So you'd have to go down a few tiers to a different gun, because some of them, the guns mostly, it seemed, would add a status effect chance at lower accuracy, or it would just increase the damage and not change anything else. And those just seem like the best ones to me.
It'd be kind of cool to... I don't know, I kind of like that idea in a way, you know? finding cool builds just in the build aspect, like just trying to find your own little niche cutout build would be interesting, but it sucks that you're also limited to previous, hey, let's use this gun that does, 50 damage, and you're like, end game. It'd be ridiculous.
And overall for Persona, making your own build is fun. It's like a big part of the game. But more than ever, I find that it's like there's only 3 Persona in your whole repertoire that are actually useful for combat.
Yeah.
And the rest are for Arcana building or fusing later.
Yeah.
And you end up just kind of like, what's the most efficient thing, Even though I had certain builds I wanted to pull off, like the gun guy I had, it would end up being just so much easier to knock everything down with an element or just fucking blast it away with raw damage.
Yeah, I suppose, unless... I wonder... I should try the merciless difficulty. Because I wonder if trying something like that would be more beneficial. Because, you remember, sometimes you do, all-out attacks and it does, 100 damage.
Yeah, no damage at all.
So I'm really curious if maybe on an even harder difficulty, if that kind of stuff is, more viable than just knocking dudes down and hoping for the best.
And I definitely had a few times where I'd say, instead of doing an all-out attack, I'm going to withdraw from the hold-up and pass the baton to, Yusuke, who has baton pass up attack, and that would do more damage than everyone attacking at the cost of some HP. And it's interesting, I don't really know how the all-out attack damage scales. It's not physical. It's, essentially almighty, but it's not fixed.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how that works, because, some endgame enemies just took less damage from it. And I've never really known how that works. But all-out attacks usually ended a fight, and that was all you needed, as it has been in the games. I mean, you definitely don't have to rely on it so much in this game, since you can hold up, and if you're really scared, you can make everybody just run away by saying something fucking stupid.
Yeah.
But that's you have more choice, and I guess that's what it comes down to, and I like that. Even if I didn't find myself using it, I'm sure there are people who did find builds that you can do, and with the additional elements in the game, there's just that much more. Could use some different skill stuff,
Yeah.
The skill thing that we were talking about, there needs to be something done in some way where there are just too many passives in the game.
Yeah.
And it seems like you just need to take up half of your slots in passives. Something needs to be done about that in order to make it more viable to use other personas.
Maybe it would be pretty cool if you could. I always think of the amp and boost. How you need 2 of those if you want the optimal thing, and they can stack. It'd be kind of cool if you could. Maybe that would be too overpowered though if you could just combine them, into one thing.
I mean, if you had to go through some effort to do so, then I think it would be justified.
Or maybe if you what is boost by 10%?
Boost is 25 and amp is 50.
Okay, so maybe if you combine them, maybe it would be 65 total or something. If it had a lower total, but
it's still more.
But it's using less slots. But it's
that's a good idea.
Like I mean, cool.
If you had to go use half a day at the confessional or something, and possibly pay money, it just seems like as long as you work for it and you earned it, I think it's justified to have something like that. Unlike the Hifumi thing, which just feels like a mechanic, this is like an overall buff. This is just a buff. And considering that it seems like there's an issue with having skill slots, I'd welcome that. I'd absolutely welcome that change.
Freaking skill slots.
Freaking skill slots, more or less. Especially Haru. Sorry, Haru.
Haru, she seems so useful, but it was just, you have to commit to one side of it. Do you want her to be Psy Queen? Or do you want her to be, support Queen?
Or Gun Queen, kind of.
Or, Beauty Thief?
Beauty Thief?
I don't know. Yeah.
Haru's fucked up, by the way. Can I say that?
What, her personality? Haru, her fighting?
Everything about Haru is kind of messed up. The way she joins is just... Okay,
I have a note about that too.
The way that she joins the party is kind of weird, and I'd rather hear what you have to say
All right,
about it.
I thought it was justified somewhat. How Morgana's slinking off into the Okumura foods thing, and that's how Haru sees him and whatnot. But wow, my main issue was that everything happened so fast.
Mm-hmm.
You had one scene where you're introduced to Haru and Morgana, and then you split up and you go, all right, let's have a contest to capture the treasure first. And then you have another scene where you wait for them in Mementos. And then it's like, then all of a sudden, you have Haru who's like, has all these issues that are being presented. Like, my dad is this asshole and I'm getting married away.
Mm-hmm.
And then like instantly,
Kicks
yeah, he fucking kicks Morgana, dude. That was bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But then instantly, like the next scene, it was like, oh, we can help you. Join the Phantom Thieves. And there you go. Your problems are fucking solved because we're going to save, like, all of her issues are solved, like, the next scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was just, like, everyone else had, Ryuji and An, they had that whole beginning portion to kind of, like,
Flesh out.
Yeah, to get, you could see what they were dealing with and how they gained their inner strength to maintain a persona. But then Haru's just like, I'll rebel against my dad. And then it was just like, okay. And then, what was it? I don't know. I just specifically thought that whole thing where it was like the scene before you are introduced to the fiance to be, and he's a huge asshole. He kicks Morgana, and then the next scene they're just like, okay, join the Phantom Thieves. We'll steal his heart. And then it's like, boom, you're going into the thing, and you're just, I don't know. It was just like felt so hasty.
And they said, oh, Haru has a persona and the metaverse outfit, so you don't get to see that.
Mm-hmm.
But her persona's not.
Oh,
there,
yeah. It's not.
The only real instance of that happening ever that I can possibly think of, just so that they can say, oh, here comes Haru's persona. Time to show you a cool scene, which was not as cool as, like, the first two of them in the game. Because they got, like, marginally worse each time they did it. So, the whole thing is underwhelming.
Yeah.
And just, like estranged from everybody else.
Mm-hmm. It definitely felt a lot different. Just because, she has a persona. It's not fully manifested or something. It was weak. But then it's like, it just seemed like an excuse to introduce her in such a way that wasn't the typical, oops, we accidentally brought an extra person into the metaverse on accident. Like that happened far too often.
Yeah, the fact that the party is really, really dumb, like super dumb, and never noticed who was around them.
I'm glad though, because
Is
they're high schoolers. I'm glad they finally were like, oops.
Well, they did it too many times.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
It's even for Haru, I don't get it. Is the thing. And even worse is after everything is said and done, Haru says, okay, I'll be with you guys for funsies for my dad. She almost immediately starts saying weird things. Like, I remember one line she said, oh, we lost sight of our original goal. And I was like, you just joined.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for months.
Right.
So I more so see her strange introduction being like the game didn't want to spend a lot of time on her because you're already so invested, like, time-wise into the game.
Yeah.
And it's they need to stagger introducing party members for the mechanics.
It was
and
just
everything.
like Naoto.
Mm-hmm.
Naoto came in. I feel like Naoto's a little more justified, though, in a way, because Naoto's a smart-ass detective. It's not a smart-ass
Like a smart.
She's smart. She has smarts. But, like...
They had a lot of, like, foreshadowing of Naoto coming to... Like, Naoto was prevalent in the story.
Mm-hmm.
But then Haru's like, Okumura, holy shit, everyone freak out. We're going, here's our next target. What's up? I'm Okumura.
And then you have like a month to hang out with Haru. And then you have like a month to hang out with, Naoto. It's kind of similar where you don't have as much time to really give a shit about them because they are introduced so fast, so late in the game. You already know. You already committed to a waifu, you don't give a shit.
Yeah,
they're new party members.
If you liked Haru, you probably already invested so much time in all these other girls.
Yeah, and like the story, I guess that's kind of... It's good that that's where the game takes a turn and gets a lot more... things start ramping up after she joins, so that's good. But I wish they need to kick it up a notch with how they introduce characters.
And to add another layer to the whole Haru masquerade that we've got going on here, something
Haru,
the Haru fuck up bonanza.
yeah,
is she says, "Let's do it, Phantom Thieves. I don't know anything about you. I'm just gonna follow along." And then they say, "Fuck, we killed your dad. Oops." Like, she doesn't have any fucking reason to trust your entire party, because she doesn't know how that shit works other than just trusting what you say.
yeah,
And her dad dies. Like, all the trust should have gone out the window, but she says, "It's okay, guys."
yeah. That's interesting. They did say how she was a big fan of the Phantom Thieves. That's maybe why she was open to join them. But after her dad dies, that is kind of like maybe she should be like, huh.
She didn't have a moment's hesitation, like, at all.
Yeah.
Even if she likes the Phantom Thieves, no one knew how they did the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so many ways to look at the fact that it just doesn't make sense that she blindly trusted them. And I guess it's pretty easy to overlook if in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just playing the game. But for me, that's a glaring, like, I mean, I'm always looking out for people that are going to backstab you, you know, that's a pivotal moment in the game's story. So,
Yeah.
like, looking at Haru and the way that there were so many ways to take it, and it just took, like, the strangest, simplest route possible, I feel. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely didn't. It, like I was saying, it's like the problems presented in one scene and then solved pretty much the next scene.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Haru's progression with your party.
And I can't remember if she really had much to say or do later. Like, usually people have their own special talents and they'll bring them up in the story and whatnot, and she was a fucking vegetable girl.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I kind of liked her ability thing. It was
okay, it's weird that they give that ability towards the end of the game, because it takes X amount of days to grow these veggies, and then you get like a month and a half or 2 months maybe with Haru, and then it just seems like that's not enough. That's just not enough time to justify that kind of a skill set, I feel.
Yeah, you have to. They probably should have had more, like, permanent abilities instead of something that takes up calendar days. I mean, you can't introduce that mechanic too early in the game because SP management is really important early on. But you can't argue that the plants were too strong, because they could have just given you weaker plants.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this takes 3 days and gives you 10 SP for.
Well, just think
your
about
party.
like Sojiro. You know, that was like, that's kind of how you can get that anyway. You can just do the exact same shit, and you have had all this whole time to, you know, level up Sojiro's social or confidant link.
Yeah.
And you just like, you have that already, and then if you're cool and you got Kawakami going on, and then she can cook all that for you, curry and everything.
Yeah, and I think that's supposed to be the incentive to use Haru, is because that's a one-stop shop.
Yeah, you go to Haru, and then she does it all for you. It doesn't take time, so that's nice.
It doesn't take time, and you don't need 2 entire confidants ranked up.
Yeah, but in the same breath, I remember it taking like 7 days for some of that stuff at rank 1, and I was just like, I think I got maybe 2 or 3 yields from her.
One of her things is plants go faster. It just seems like they, you know, if you want it to be super efficient, you're just going to jump into the Haru bandwagon instantly as soon as you get her. And she's available a lot. It's just kind of, definitely agree with what you said. It was a strange time in the game to introduce her, and with that mechanic of all things.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes. So let's move on to the next topic then. Do you have anything in mind?
I've got so many things in mind that I might as well let you. I mean,
my turn. All right, mechanics. Palaces. What do you think generally about those? Do you like the fact that they're more? I remember you a long time ago. Maybe this is invalid now because it's been so long. But I remember you saying something about. You thought that the game would be shorter because the palaces would be. I feel like you said something about that when we were first speculating about Persona 5 a long time ago.
the game would be shorter because
it's not procedurally randomly generated.
Oh, and
the dungeons and whatnot. And you thought the game would suffer because it wouldn't have as much Is that right? Did you ever have that? I could have sworn you said something to that effect.
I don't remember if I said that, but I'll work off that anyway, in that I think palaces did kind of feel like they went by faster. And I don't know if that's like an act of having fun, or like if it's because it feels like everything is... You understand where you're going way better.
Yeah.
Because pretty much every single thing in P3 and P4 was like just fucking procedural. I think the reason the game itself took longer was the stuff outside of the palaces more than
just cutscenes
than in it. Yeah, I think there was more of that. If I had to say, I mean, because if you're gonna level that against me, I've got a long playtime. How would I argue against that? No,
yeah,
that'd be my point. Anyway, I do think that the palaces felt like they went by faster, and I don't know if it's because I was having more fun, because I don't think that I really like the palaces all that much.
Oh yeah,
the whole idea of them. Mementos had a really it had a vibe I wasn't really into. The fact that you're driving a car wasn't something that I was super into. It's all on the railways. The big shadows look different, I guess I just kind of must have got used to the ones in P3 and P4, and it was just kind of a shock to see the new ones. But I would say that I kind of like the formula P3 and P4 had more than palaces.
Interesting. I guess one of the things that I kind of go to is days. You could be... We were on hard mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I think only the first palace I had to take a day off because I just couldn't make it all the way. But other than when the story requires you to go and do something in the real world to affect the cognition, so something will open up in the palace, I could usually beat them in one day.
And I think that only happened once.
And that was killing everything too. I remember in Persona 3 and 4 and stuff that you could easily get to the next, barricade or block or whatever in one day.
Yeah.
But you had to do a lot of evasion running around.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because I was bad. Especially in Persona 3, I was pretty bad at that game when I was first played it. 17 or something.
Either way, there's you don't have to fight everything in either game, but it seemed like it was much easier to avoid fights in P3 and P4, but you also... I think that's part of the experience thing. I felt like there was no experience in Persona 5 for a huge portion of the game. You just
the
didn't
middle
get
chunk
enough.
you were hardly... You'd get
The beginning, too.
The beginning, yeah. For sure. I feel like that's always... I remember specifically in both Persona 3 and 4, the first dungeon, you're getting piss. You're not getting any experience points. It's so hard to grind up any levels in the beginning because they're just giving you 7 experience, and you're just I don't need this. I need 200 to level up.
Mm-hmm. And you have SP problems, and it's just not viable to farm for a lot of reasons.
Yeah,
I guess I don't really remember that in P3 and P4, just in general. But I really felt it in Persona 5, just especially contrasted to the late game XP gains.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like a slog to get up in levels and everything early on. And the fact that the palaces weren't random, there was a specific set amount of enemies that you could and might pretty much I'm sure you and I did the same thing. We pretty much fight every single shadow.
Yeah.
From point A to point B. And since we cleared it essentially in one day most of the time, you just go to the furthest safe room and continue from there. So you just basically killed every group once. And they're preset groups, not random.
Right.
So it's kind of like they balanced the game around that almost. And I felt that. I could feel that personally. And I'm not as into that feel. Personally as I am just random fights, random amounts of them almost. But I don't know. I don't have much of a objective reason. I just subjectively like that formula more.
The randomly generated sort of...
Yeah, I don't like procedural generation in general, I'd have to say, but especially Persona 4, since they didn't just have the one layout.
Yeah.
Because Tartarus just looks the same the whole time in Persona 3.
The same, yeah.
And I think, of course, that's probably the biggest reason they changed it to palaces, right? What is a better reason than people didn't like running through something that just looked the exact same the whole time.
Right. That's gotta be it.
Yeah, and I'd have to say that the mechanics they added, they're not bad. I just don't really like them in Palaces. The moving around and cover stuff, it all fits thematically. It all makes sense. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It just, ambushing felt like required, not like a bonus. It felt like you just had to do it, and it was easy to do as well. So you just kind of turned your brain off and just walked in the one direction that the game gave you in the Palaces. And then they give you puzzles, and I felt like pretty much every puzzle, while the characters were giving exposition about the puzzle, you had already solved it in your head.
Yeah. Oh man, dude, towards the end of the game, in the depths, holy shit. I was like, instantly, it clicked in my head what I was supposed to be doing with those fucking floor panels. Mm-hmm. And then, like, you step on one, and then you step off of one, and then it's like, huh? Everyone stops, and they're like, wait, it's lit up a different color? And then you're like, yeah. And then you get like, oh my god, they had like 4 different interjections of them explaining the puzzle to you, even though it's like so easy. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, I've never played a video game before. What are these floor puzzles? Tile puzzles.
In some games, it's justified. They do that in a lot of games, and as I've gotten older, I've noticed it more and more.
Yeah, that's definitely not a Persona 5 only problem.
But Persona itself, you'd think, is usually just kind of a hard enough game in a lot of ways that you'd think if somebody was able to make it to the Mementos depths, they probably can grasp some of these concepts more easily than you're giving them credit for. And maybe I'm being presumptuous.
On a flip side, it's kind of interesting because no Persona game before has had puzzles. I can't speak for 1 and 2. All right, I haven't played those. Those aren't...
Well, 4 had, I always remember the video game castle had this weird one where you had to, run down, because there would be one specific floor.
Door or whatever?
They had one specific floor, well, maybe a couple of them, but one of them that wouldn't be random. It would have a specific layout, and it was just a bunch of little hallways that weren't connected to each other. They were just straight paths.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd run to the end of one and get teleported to a different one.
Yeah.
And you just had to find your way through it. So it is a puzzle, in a way.
Yeah.
It's a movement puzzle, kind of. A memory puzzle in other ways. But I don't know if I speak for anyone but myself in that I think lots of those puzzles are fucking stupid.
They're really bad, yeah.
You need them to kind of break up the monotony of running from point A to point B in the Palaces. Mm-hmm. But in Persona 3 and 4, running through the random dungeons was enough of a task. It was menial for sure, but you didn't need puzzles for it.
Right.
And that's why the ones in Persona 4 felt like they were being shoved down your throat, and you're like, oh my god, let me get back to the random ass stupid shit that I'm used to doing.
Yeah.
And in Persona 5, it's like you're not having your hand held per se, but they're so easy. You are just, like I said, turning your brain off and just going from point A to point B over and over and over. And
yeah.
Third Eye makes it even more of a joke because everything's lit up in fluorescent colors, so you know what's going on.
Yeah, I like Palaces a lot. I wish almost that the formula was taken into something like Persona 4, where the Palaces aren't these fucking asshole douchebags that you don't give a shit about. That you're seeing their manifestation of reality or how they see it. I wish it was people I like Futaba's Palace because you kind of knew, if you paid attention, you saw the cover of the game, you knew Futaba was going to be on your team. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of cool seeing her, me, I'm all about, psychological stuff. So seeing her fucked upness, seeing that represented in different ways, putting together those puzzles, the puzzle themselves was whatever, but seeing the cool, what is that, monolith or lithograph? What are those called?
Hieroglyphs.
Yeah. Seeing her hieroglyphic memories that she'd repressed was cool to me. And I was learning about Futaba and how... And then fighting the cognitive version of her mom was cool. I like that because it's more, you actually are giving a shit about someone who's not a piece of shit, like fucking Kaneshiro. And I guess it's cool to have a big bad guy who's what's up? I'm king of this castle. You know, like I'm a fucking dickhead.
I don't think it's that cool.
I think it's cool to take the cognition thing into account there, but I wish that it was more for people who are likable, because revealing stuff about people's character and stuff in a palace like that is really, really cool. And I wish that it wasn't about, Kaneshiro sees everyone as ATMs.
Yeah.
Instead, if it was someone who had been being bullied or had some sort of other issue, maybe their perception of how reality would be a lot more interesting to me. So I like palaces a lot, but I just wish they were, more on people that I, like.
I want to hear more about why you like palaces, but before I let you blast off on that, I think it's, you look at Kamoshida, you look at Kaneshiro, Madarame, and you say, what did you learn about them in the palace? You just run into more and more things, and everyone collectively agrees in your party, yeah, what a bitch.
Yeah.
And you move on. You didn't have a reason to give a shit about them. And Kamoshida, you ran into a lot, and you learned more, but he just was a scumbag. Like, the game painted him out to be that, and that's what he was, and it wasn't interesting. They are just backdrops for the character you're getting to, like, contrast against, and I don't think it's as effective as maybe they thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yusuke had a lot of stuff going on outside that I thought
it was cool. About Madarame's was cool just because of Yusuke.
Yeah, Yusuke's was cool, I think, because there was so much stuff happening outside of the metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
But all the stuff happening inside with the shadow version of Madarame and everything, it was kind of throwaway.
Yeah.
And I think that most of them were like that.
Absolutely.
Except maybe the first one only, when everyone is like, fucking Kamoshida makes the same mistake. Like, oh shit, I keep letting people live and like fucking around with them for 30 minutes and then they get a persona. Oops.
Yeah,
I did it 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And that's the only time that I think that it did work.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe when they created the game, they probably started out with those characters and they said, wow, that's a cool way to introduce them. And then they just kind of did it for everyone else, but it didn't have the same spirit.
Right.
That's my take on that. And if you've nothing else to add to that, then I would love to hear why you like palaces.
Yeah. I like palaces for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck procedural generation. That's a big point.
I'd strongly agree.
I've already said this already, but seeing the people's cognitive versions of reality was cool to me, and seeing that in a palace was interesting. You're traversing through a mostly real life version of a place, and then I guess I really liked that palaces each had their own theme too, and they all had mechanics in the palace that would reflect on that, whatever the theme was. Like a bank, you had like the cameras. I was surprised they didn't actually have cameras in any other place.
Yeah,
but like you had cameras, and I thought the safe when you're getting close to the treasure was cool. When you're in that bottom safe and you're moving through and unlocking deeper into the
that
safe,
big huge tumbler thing.
Yeah, it was just that was cool how they used the palace as a puzzle, in that aspect. Madarame's was interesting as well because
paintings.
The paintings that was okay, I guess. I didn't really. It was interesting, but I
hated those.
I didn't hate it. I didn't really like it. It wasn't a groundbreaking thing. I wasn't like, holy shit, dude, bro, I'm fucking walking through this painting, bro.
Like the characters in the game do.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it was just right in the beginning when you were seeing all the paintings of the pupils, and I was like, dude, this guy's fucked up. But just like you said, palaces are just an avenue for you to just keep discovering, man, this guy's a piece of shit, like over and over and over again. But yeah, like the casino was cool. How you had to win all those games, even though they were all rigged. You had to find a way to unrig the game, and like, I thought it was funny that you have a little coin count. I mean, it's all you're gonna be getting there no matter what. If you fuck up, you're not gonna lose those games.
Yeah,
but like, it was cool how each one worked with their own rules, and I appreciated that. And advancing through palaces was pretty self-explanatory as well. I mean, you're just going in the direction. You normally didn't really have to backtrack or do anything like that. But I liked what little, they didn't really have too many puzzles that bent my brain or anything, but I appreciated that they actually put work into designing these cool palaces. Like Madarame's palace especially looked cool, I thought. Especially when you get to that end part, when it's like one of those fucked up maze things where like staircases are going everywhere and you're like, it's all gold. And
That's pretty you.
It was just neat. And yeah, I just liked palaces a lot more than, you run down a steamy bathhouse in Persona 4 and you're just
that's the first place I think of in Persona 4.
That was the most I don't know what it was. It was monotonous as... and then I'll go there again. Fucking Mitsuo's shitty dungeon in Persona 4 because of that dumbass song. Oh, I hate that song.
Oh, the video game song.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Palaces, to their credit, give them a lot more artistic places to be artistic.
Mm-hmm.
Like Madarame's, I just noticed as a New Game Plus, the floor is just all these little triangle things, but like a ring around your character as you approach just the design on the floor, like it expands into a different shape. And there's just cool shit going on in there. And all sorts, you can make rooms and have different things going on.
Yeah.
It gives them so much more room for creativity that it's hard to argue that that's anything negative coming from Persona 4.
Yeah, you definitely have everything's... There's no, randomly generated stuff, in the main palaces. It's all handcrafted. There's like, I guess there's, tile sets and stuff. But other than that, most of the main rooms are all completely different and completely separate from each other. And it's cool. Actually exploring it, you actually feel like you're exploring a place of significance rather than I'm just going to walk down this long-ass hallway. And then sometimes there's going to be a big room that's like 4x tiles.
Yeah.
What's up, Persona 4 and 3? And like... I don't know. I think palaces are definitely a step in the right direction because of that.
Yeah, I appreciate the reasons that you can like palaces. I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like the themes going on. They were like too outlandish for me, which is strange because it's Persona and it's pretty outlandish in the first place. But Casino by far was my favorite palace
Casino's
because
the
even the puzzles, I thought, they weren't like, except for the fucking dumbass one where you did have to backtrack and you had to flip those panels or whatever. That was stupid as hell.
Especially because you come across them all. I was like checking them out and everyone was like, "No, we don't need that." And I'm like, "We're gonna need that."
Exactly. But the puzzles with the other things, getting the chips and stuff, it was interesting. I thought. And it really brought Akechi into the fold. He had a lot to say about them. And that was a really interesting way to unravel Akechi as you're going through. And you didn't really learn a lot about Sai other than they just drove home that same thing. But the point is, Casino, best one. Castle was my second favorite. Because I don't know. I just like the design of the castle. And it's like fitting to what stuff I like. But then you go to fucking like a bank. And, it's a bank.
It's just a bank.
And that's whatever. The museum, I'm not into the whole staircase thing.
Mm-hmm.
I could see why you would be, but whatever. The museum was also whatever. Space, I got to space and I got kind of sick.
All right, for one thing, just fuck the spaceport because I hate that so much, man. Because like, all right, take a look at it from a thematic perspective.
Okay.
Every place that you go to could be somewhere where you can imagine thieves sneaking into and stealing something. Except for a fucking spaceport. Like it doesn't make sense to me at all. Like why they picked a spaceport. You don't
learn anything about Okumura like at all.
He just treats his workers like shit, and that's all you learn.
So they are robots.
And he thinks, yep, this is my path to the government. It's like me shooting a big spaceship up into the sky. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense, dude. Like,
yeah, that was...
if they went with the thief route, what other things I was thinking, like, man, maybe it'd be cool if there was like a big train heist type thing.
That would have been
or like
super
if there was,
cool. But
it could have been so many
I don't
different...
know where you'd go.
Yeah, like just straight... Well, just think like maybe... I don't know.
Jumping up out of cars into other train cars, like a bunch of rails.
And then maybe, I don't know, they could just add anything else other than a fucking space
bunch
port.
Of pirate ships, they're kind of thieves, scallywags.
Yeah. Maybe like there's different ships, there's big ship battles. I guess that would probably be a lot to do.
But
then
the point is,
fucking a spaceport doesn't make any sense to me.
the puzzles in it were very obnoxious.
The puzzles were obnoxious, and also thematically, going back, dude. All right, I know I talked about this before, but everyone has their reasons as to why their cognitive version of reality looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
But why is it? Who would seriously, in a billion million years, trillion years, go, yep, me going into the politics is me shooting off into the stars in a rocket ship? Like, it doesn't make sense. And they didn't even have to do any reasoning for it, too, because I think the writers themselves were probably like, this doesn't make sense. Okay, just have Futaba figure out the keyword instantly.
Yeah.
And then they were just like, okay.
Nothing reinforces that more than nobody really, like, did any figuring out of how to get in there.
Yeah.
It was just, oh, we already have the keyword. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Because no one's going to say outer space, because that makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, they're like, what would Okumura see his thing as? Oh, outer space.
Oh,
Like,
and then
yeah.
you have the jumping out into space puzzle.
Yeah, and the doors.
And
Yeah,
the
that place
doors.
was just a slog, dude.
Everything about that, you have to stop the conveyor belt things or whatever the fuck they were and run across
Can we,
those.
all right, I don't want to talk about this anymore because it's pissing me off.
Yeah,
Pissing me off
outer
thinking about it.
space was just gross, you know?
Yeah, man.
And I think about, like,
The music was good. The music was cool, I
the
thought.
music was cool, yeah, sure.
But it didn't make it bearable or anything.
And that's what, I guess that's probably one of my bigger issues with the palaces is that they had too much liberty with the themes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Futaba's pyramid, I know that you were saying some positive stuff about that. It was okay, I guess. You know, it was just a pyramid, and it was kind of outlandish to me as well. A little bit, not quite as outlandish as outer space.
Yeah,
but-
like, hey, my room is a tomb. Boom, huge pyramid. See, like, yeah, I mean, in a way, I could see.
And definitely the only reason that I think it's okay to me is that it was Futaba and the fact that she wasn't a villain. And she had that psychological development in her palace.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, it still had the ridiculous puzzles that were just obnoxious in it. It had a lot of verticality, which was really interesting. Like,
yeah,
I
that
felt
one
like
room, you were like, that was pretty cool.
that was probably the best part about that place, and one of the things I wish they did more in the palaces is they didn't have true platforming, and that's an issue I have overall. You know, maybe I don't want to get into it quite yet, but there's no true platforming. It's just,
Walk to this point and you will jump automatically.
yeah, it's press X to do thing is what I've been referring it as, and the pyramid just had so many different places to go. You had little things to crawl through, and a lot of it was still kind of straightforward, is the sad thing. But like the very first room, you know, with all those multi-floors, and there were only specific places to go to get up to other areas that you might see, like a chest across the room, and you're like, oh shit, I want to get to that. You had to figure out your way up there.
Yeah.
I appreciated that. And I kind of wish there was more of that in the other levels. Like the spaceport had these floating pads outside in space or wherever the fuck it was. And there were so many of them, but you couldn't jump on any of them.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was only one path to go. You were finally not on rails in the story, but you were on rails because you had nowhere else to go.
Right.
And I think that was the biggest letdown for me in the palaces. Is that I didn't have a lot of choice. I was kind of sightseeing, and I don't want to sightsee. You know, I
especially
wanna,
because it's people who are just shit. So why do you want to? You don't care about them.
and it's not sightseeing in the way that I'm like, I want to go here and look at this. It's that I have no choice but to go on this one path and see all the things that they're presenting me in the way. Like sometimes the characters will draw attention to something that maybe you thought from a distance, oh, that looks cool, I want to examine it. And then the characters say, stop, let's look at it and talk about it. And you say, you know, there goes my personal reason to look at it. Now they're just going to talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
And throw that all out the window. That I don't think that really means that palaces are bad. I think palaces probably are a good step for the series.
Yeah.
And I think people probably will enjoy them. I just hope that they don't go too wild with it. You know, Persona is already pretty crazy to begin with, and there are some things in the story that just, you know, the palaces are cognitive. It gets it's too much to deal with.
Yeah.
It gets crazy.
I feel the exact same way.
So now you don't like them as much. You hate
Yep,
them?
I hate palaces now. Thanks for talking me out of it. You opened up my eyes. I'm just kidding. I love palaces. Fuck your opinions because they're wrong.
What about Mementos?
Oh, man, yeah.
You brought Mementos up.
Mm-hmm. At first, I was psyched about Mementos when I first got it.
I was like, yeah, throwback. That's
Hell
cool,
yeah.
finally.
I was like, because I thought back to that thing that I could swear that you said at some point about, man, it being not randomly generated.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, cool, it's optional. But then it turns out it's not optional.
It's not optional.
And then
at all.
I thought, man, what if I didn't ever go to Mementos of my own accord?
Mhm.
What if I just said, it's optional, I don't give a shit. And then at the end, you seriously have to fucking slog through like 50 floors? Like, what? How does
Yeah.
that work?
You'd probably still have Futaba can scan a floor, and you can instantly just fast travel to the next floor. You would probably insta-kill all the enemies, or they'd just run away from you.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be that grueling for most of it, but it's still... That would still be a shitty situation to be in.
Personally, I thought I kind of had an idea that the final thing would be. Oh, yeah, the final thing would be, it's in Mementos. I thought that would probably happen.
They were definitely kind of pointing in that direction for a long time. Even as you first discover Mementos, they say, holy shit, look at all these people on the train. Where are they going?
Yeah.
And then you never... You don't figure that out. And if at any point in Mementos you forget about that, then maybe you wouldn't think, oh, Mementos is where it all concludes. But if you recall that in your mind the whole time, something's fishy about Mementos is probably the thought going through your head.
Yeah, I like the execution of the last dungeon in Mementos a lot. But I don't like...
That it wasn't optional? That it was a required thing, just like the way they painted it, it was, oh, you can come here sometimes. You choose when to come here. And they have, they don't explicitly say, and it would have been really nice to know that, oh, hey, your requests don't disappear unless you didn't take them at all from your phone. They don't disappear. You can just wait as long as you want. The fact that everyone's coming up to you all the time saying, hey, we should go to Mementos today is just the game being a game.
Yeah.
Like, you could have literally just gone the previous day and fucking did everything, and they'd still tell you.
Right.
It's just a weird way of handling it, and you don't know what's coming next in Persona. So you don't know how to handle Mementos other than to be really scared of what will happen if you don't keep going through it when they ask you to.
Right.
That kind of put it in a weird spot, I guess, in the game.
Yeah, it definitely did. Because it was never really viable to go there.
Yeah.
It's
another
you don't
big
gain
thing.
shit other than if you have one, like a request, and you have to just gather those. It's not worth it to just go for one request unless you're like, I want to get this, I want to get this confidant up, and then maybe you'd go, but it's just not worth it. And like, to me, it sucks that it's a bad decision to have it be the area that unlocks is like the level range of the palace you just completed.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and you have to wait. You can't go back there and farm it like after you've beaten the boss or anything.
Yeah.
You have to wait for the entire time.
You have to
run
wait
out.
basically until you open up the next palace to go there and do the stuff that was in the previous. So it's like it's in that awkward area where there's not really a huge point or anything really drawing me to go other than to complete requests once in a while. And then it would have been just nice if it would have been either open up directly when the palace falls. Man, that would be, they could have linked that. I don't understand why they linked it to public cognition of the Phantom Thieves when it could have been complete something else. But it should have just been, hey, you can keep grinding your level range after you complete the palace if you want, or complete requests that are actually, man, dude, I went and one-shotted so many requests and it was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And because you go in and there's I forgot even what I was doing. It was just someone would go, that guy, that's the guy doing the face thing, and I'm like, yeah, the face thing.
Yeah, because the request was from so many days ago.
Yeah, and then we would kick his ass in one turn, and then the music would be like, doo, doo, doo.
Yeah,
and he's
so
like,
sad.
I'm so sorry, it was wrong. And I'm like, yep. And then I'd go down another floor, and then I'd do it again.
You'd have a choice of saying, you're shitty, or eat shit, and and then you'd grab an item, and you're like, oh, man, that would have been useful way back, but there was no point in coming then.
Exactly. So, like, yeah, that was just a big weird... I altogether didn't dig Mementos too much, but I liked the end.
They designed Mementos into a weird corner.
I really I was fucking so hyped when I first got there. Dude, I loved Mementos at first.
I was excited for what it could be,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't quite hit the mark for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, experience was bad, unless you went on a rainy day or something, there was nothing to see.
Yeah.
At all. You could go there for, like, your treasure demons or whatever the fuck, and, like, that for me was the biggest incentive because I missed a couple. And I get it, and then I'm like, cool, done.
Peace out.
And the thing with the public cognition, they seem to have retconned that or some shit right at the end, where it's like,
oh yeah, like
people stopped thinking about the Phantom Thieves entirely, and then you can go into the last thing, and nobody really gave a shit.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And so, if you're gonna throw a wrench in it like that, then what was the point of it the whole time?
Yeah, it was like gates placed in the worst spot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you got two picks when you get a new palace, you could go level up at that palace, or you could go to Mementos and not level up. Like, what do you choose? If you want to gain levels, you're just going to go explore the new palace, and then you'll be 10 fucking levels ahead of Mementos.
And you say, man, I want to farm, or I want to beat the palace and get it out of the way on this day because, hey, look, there's no one to hang out with today. It's the most efficient day to go to the palace. But if you do that, and if you farm, then you'll be like, I mean, especially earlier in the game, you are risking having a harder time against the boss because you have less sundries and, like, HP and SP and stuff to go into the fight with. But you beat the boss, the palace is gone, and you can't fucking do anything because this Mementos thing still doesn't open up.
So yeah, it would definitely make sense if you kill the boss and then Mementos opens up with that area.
Or possibly had they had the exact same mechanic, but you could go one extra floor the whole time. Like, you could have been challenging the enemies from the next place.
Yeah.
That would have made... The problem there is that it would have made the actual palace kind of a joke if you were farming in Mementos already. But I don't know. It's too difficult to figure out how to position Mementos the way that they designed it.
Yeah. There's some missteps with that, for sure. But hopefully... I want something like that in another game. You know what I mean? I don't want it necessarily to be tied into the story like maybe Mementos was. But I would really appreciate it if there was some optional stuff to do, especially if they're going to bar you from going to the palace after you complete it.
I really liked Persona 4 letting you just go back to the places. It felt like there was a lot of reason to go back even to the older places for whatever reason, and that made them optional areas. And there were requests. They had a lot of just weird requests to go to the old places. And you could just find different shit that you might need. And you could find different gear, because the gear unlocked in the shop based on what you sold to the person. So you could go on rainy days into older places and find, like, tougher enemies that would drop special items that you could sell and get good gear. So it felt like there was a reason to do it. But not this time. Not this time at all.
Not this time. It was just maybe to get crafting materials for tools was one of the only things that I had done at one point. I was like, I got to make this unbreakable lockpick, and then that was all I did.
Was there a reason that the palaces had to crumble, and so you couldn't go back to them?
I was thinking of that too. Story-wise,
there's probably some thin reasoning.
The palace is the projection of their desires, and then you steal their desires. It kind of makes sense.
But didn't they just write it to be that way? Kind of.
Well, if you taking the treasure is taking their desires, I mean, it would make sense that it would disappear instead of just remaining in place.
Yeah, but it seems like they maybe could have written the story not so sharp like that. Like, they could have changed it just a little bit where it's not like their desires or something, because that's like space. He desired space. Okay, cool. So you get into this weird thing where it doesn't make sense either way you look at it. And it's too much for me to handle, honestly.
Yeah.
To wrap my mind around why they did it the way they did it. And that, I guess that's just palaces, honestly.
Palaces.
I don't really like them. but I don't hate them. I think they are a good step forward, and I do hope that Mementos going forward is still an optional thing. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope it is an optional thing for the first time, not a secretly mandatory thing.
Right. Exactly. Some place to just kind of get gear, and like if you actually put time into something like Mementos, and it's completely optional, but if you actually put time into something like that you can gain cool stuff that you wouldn't be able to access normally. That would be like there's more incentive. Like what you were saying, going back to those places on rainy days in Persona 4.
Mm-hmm.
If they had something like that with palaces or with fucking Mementos, that would be very ideal.
I guess it was the fact that it was the exact same enemies too. Maybe if it was different enemies, like different personas that were just, around the same level, maybe, sure. But if they were new things to collect, new items to be dropped, and what have you.
Yeah.
There were a lot of missed opportunities, I'd say, for Mementos.
For sure.
And Mementos is fucking weird. I don't know why the end of Mementos is just suddenly a palace, by the way. That whole thing kind of confused me. But
Mementos is a palace.
But but the way that it was like suddenly you weren't in a car and you could
walk around, and that nothing was like, it was still the public and whatever, but they were cops and they were like trying to explain it the whole time, but I just wasn't buying it. Yeah, I remember that did seem kind of like hinged together when they were like, the public wants to be kept here, so they must have made the cops to get you. And I was like, all right.
And all the other ones, every single other thing on the way to Mementos was just a like
normalized
amorphous thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, you were just so close to the pinnacle of their desire or whatever. I just find
it could be read as that, I suppose, but yeah.
It's all just a little hard to believe.
Yeah.
Thin.
On a different note, though, some of the things of that palace were really good, I thought.
Like?
I really liked, maybe it was just personally how they addressed the problem of people. Throughout the story, you get little tinges of people's fucked up public opinions, and how they're so easily swayed. And I remember we were talking about that, like, not even knowing that was going to be a main thing. I feel I was just like, man, these people are fucking. Why are these people so stupid, dude? And it's because of that.
They were buying into the fake news and everything.
Yeah, and then even before Shido though, like when everyone was like sucking Akechi's dick, and then once the Phantom Thieves was like, "What's up, Medjed?" Boom, and then everyone's like, "Man, Akechi's a shithead," and I'm like, "What, dude?" And like it was ridiculous, but like talking to the people who'd imprisoned themselves in there, some of their comments, like I was like, whoa. Some of them hit like close to home, where they were just like, well, yeah, I'm not going to achieve any of my goals, so I might as well as not try. And I'm like, damn, I'm guilty of that sometimes. And I was just like, some of this is like,
But all of them ended always, also, I want to die.
Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. That's typical Persona, I guess. But some of those things were definitely, I was appreciating, because it seemed like they were tackling some really cool issues of stuff like that,
And they managed to do that in Persona. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Always they've managed to do that, and I hope they continue to do that. Was it as fast in Persona 3 and 4? I'm having a hard time remembering, where it seemed like we're just doing a regular, normal high schooler, whatever it is that we thought we were doing, and then suddenly they're like, by the way, behind the scenes, there was just all this other shit going on.
It was always fast, I think. I remember Persona 3 was like, you had the option, you killed all the midnight dudes.
Mm-hmm.
You had the option to kill Rio something. That guy.
The guy
with the scarf.
Scarf guy.
And then it was like the next day. I remember it was like the month of January or something. Everything was all fucked up, and the town was just trashed. And then everyone was like, bring the end of the world, I want to die. and then it was just like, that kind of didn't make sense, but I was still like, whoa. I was entranced, I was into it. But then in Persona 4, it made more sense, because like the fog was seeping. It just suddenly started seeping in, and you were like, why? What's going on? And everyone was just acting so fucking weird, and the music was all different. I mean, it was different in Persona 3 too, but I remember specifically how ominous.
Hanging out with social links in Persona 4 while that fog was there, and people would keep drawing attention to it.
Yeah, dude.
I liked that a lot.
It was really cool. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's always, you achieve your main goal. You do something. And then all of a sudden there's something else. I feel like that's the thing. And it's always a big, huge public thing. I hope they switch that up, because that's getting to be a little formulaic. Where it's like, hey, we did our main thing, but then the public wants to die.
Or maybe
so a
if
god
it's
will come
not
in.
so drastic, so steep of a
like
of
you're
an
always
incline.
killing a god. You're like,
oh, okay, I like that.
yeah, I mean,
And I like the way that everyone was saying, man, why is everyone still all up in arms about Shido like they like him, and no one gives a shit about the Phantom Thieves?
Mm-hmm.
I was anticipating it not to instantly say, booga booga, I'm a god.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just jump into that, and we just start chasing the Holy Grail and whatever.
yeah,
Like, that happened so fast after everyone was just starting to say, what's going on here?
I do gotta say, it really threw me for a loop. It grabbed my neck and yanked me really fast. I got huge whiplash
Jesus.
when they were like, let's destroy mementos instantly. They just started talking about this, and then they were like, it's only to be, we can only rectify this by destroying it. And I was like, huh? It just felt so out of left field for me, because they had no, they just had inkling of, like, they were like, oh, you know, all this
Something's
is really
going
weird.
wrong here.
And then
they say.
Morgana's like, let's kill mementos, and that'll fix everything. And I'm like, what?
That happens a lot in that game. Is somebody says, let's do this drastic fucking thing, and then someone says, are you sure about that? And then someone says, we don't have any other choice. And you say, we could think about it for a little
Yeah.
bit, and you just go and do it.
Yeah.
And it just always works out, I guess.
I remember that feeling so strange to me, but I guess I accepted it because I knew something was going to happen with mementos at some point.
Yeah. I don't know. The way that they were making Shido out to be like the big bad the whole game, and then like I mean, you knew he wasn't going to be, right?
Yeah.
You knew he wasn't going to be the big bad guy.
Yeah.
But they still made him out to be, and then you get into the fight, and it's got the cool-ass music, and so many phases. And then the actual last boss kind of paled, I thought, to how much setup Shido had.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
I mean, sure, yeah, the whole game had, like, foreshadowed setup for the god, but you just run into him, and he's like, what's up? I've got, like...
Okay, yeah.
I've got one phase. I've got one phase, and,
Yeah,
like, I just got
that's-
introduced, and, like...
I kind of agree, but I disagree at the same time, because I was getting pumped running up there. Like, you were in actual Shibuya, and it was all fucked up.
I mean, yeah, that was cool.
Oh, that
Sure.
was cool. But, yeah, the actual boss fight itself, he's just standing there, and then... I thought I liked the boss fight, but I was let down at the same time because there was just one phase. I liked that there were the different arms, and they would all do different things, but it all felt really insubstantial because, like, no buffs. I kept getting buffed. I kept getting debuffed all the time. But my guys, it wouldn't do anything. I was on hard, dude. I don't understand. Like, ooh, Anna's, she's lust. She's got lust. And then
Yeah.
she just would still do everything that I didn't have any issue.
Yeah, they
And it
just...
was like,
they didn't give you enough reason, I guess, to care that you were fighting a god. Honestly, it's just strange. It reminds me of Persona 4 almost, in that, like, you kind of just, when you go back to Junes, and, you know, it's the whole bullshit thing, you know, of there is something still wrong, you say. And, you know, even if you figured that out on your own, you're like, it's kind of, I don't really understand why we're going to do all this. And then it's like, ooh, I'm a god. And then you're in whatever that fucking place is, Yomi or whatever.
yeah.
And it's so fast compared to everything else.
Yeah.
Like, I think it just goes to show that, like, Adachi just felt like a much better villain.
Yeah.
And then the god was just kind of tacked on to the end. And even... It's a more blurry version, I think, in Persona 5, because I didn't care about Shido. Because they made it obvious he was a bad guy the whole time.
Dude,
there wasn't a cool twist.
Just imagine if they fucking switched it up with a Akechi being like a
that
would have been
I'm
so
really,
good.
really let down by how that all went down.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I suppose, yeah, if you agree, then there's no need to tell each other, but just for the sake of bringing it up, Akechi, you only have one encounter with him, like, where he is outward about his betrayal. Everything else is just kind of suspicious the whole time. You know, I mean, neither of us really trusted Akechi for a huge portion of the game.
Yeah.
And then he says, I am actually evil. Here's my cool looking persona. And you have one fight with him that, like, even if it was kind of cool, it was just over in a snap, and then he just dies.
Yeah.
And you say, oh, okay.
They should have switched. Man, Shido... It should have been like, you fight Shido through the boss fight. You didn't have to deal with all that Akechi thing. And then at the end of the Shido boss fight, fucking... Instead of the billions of phases of Shido, maybe Akechi comes in and just, like, can kill Shido or something. Or, like, anything else. If there was just more significance on Akechi towards the end of the game.
He was, like, a cool antagonist.
He was really cool, and you got him on your fucking party. And he, like, had a huge part in the story. And, like, everything set up made me believe that he'd be a bigger player. But then he just got fucking mind...
We were betrayed by the game.
Yeah.
Shido...
When they started up that first cutscene when he's like, one of your friends sold you out.
Yeah.
You know?
They built it up the whole fucking game.
That's breaking the fourth wall to us.
Yeah.
Because that sold us out.
Yeah.
Because we were pumped about it.
Even worse is that, like, you hear Akechi saying, oh yeah, I was just going to betray Shido at the end anyway. That was his big reasoning. And then Shido says, oh yeah, I knew he was going to betray me, so I was going to betray him. So the whole time Shido was just going to fucking win, and he was just an unlikable bad guy the whole game anyway.
Yeah.
He wasn't
a cool bad guy.
He was like a comic book bad guy who's just evil for the sake of evil.
Yeah.
He had no real rhyme or reason, and you just hated him to hate him. And... then you go from that, where you're like, man, that's a bad taste in my mouth. Isn't there something a little better? And then you say, oh, it's a god. I mean, it's better than Shido, for sure.
Yeah, like, since that god had placed Goro there beforehand as his bet to who would win in that game.
And, you know, that's cool in that light.
You'd think that maybe he would manipulate things so he could have Goro as his Akechi as his right-hand man towards the end. So, like, if you were climbing up the thing, maybe you're fighting Akechi instead of
some god. He didn't really
anything else.
He didn't have much foresight and all that.
Yeah,
the whole thing is kind of ridiculous. Morgana, you know, dying, coming back, just like a couple of Ryuji dying, and just coming back like,
yep.
You know,
no one dies anymore. Just Shinji. Just Shinji from Persona 3 is the only one who dies.
Akechi.
He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's a fucking bad guy. No one in the main party. I kind of expected someone to die. I was thinking, someone's gonna die, dude. This game's, like, mature. No one died in Persona 4 because it was like, what's up? It's funny. We're just funny guys.
The color is yellow. It's too cute.
But I thought maybe Persona 5 that someone was gonna die.
I guess I didn't really have that.
I thought Ryuji died, and he didn't.
I did really think that he actually died, but I'm not surprised that he didn't, because it just seems like, you know, nowadays in games, if you were to rip a character away from somebody, it pisses me off a lot, especially if I've had a lot of time to actually invest in them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's so good for story purposes, and that's just it's an issue that only games have. Let's say that. I don't want to go into general game issues here, but if you have a character who betrays somebody in a TV show, you didn't personally invest anything into them, like time. You invested that equally to everyone, so it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's cool. But in a video game, you have tangible, like, you gave them these items, and you did all this, like...
Level them up.
That Zisteria, dude? Zisteria, where you take away Alicia, or whatever her fucking name is?
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't even die. You just don't get her. And so you see the public outcry. There's a reason, I think, that they don't kill off characters in games as much anymore.
I'm really curious as to why. It seems like Goro Akechi should have been in it more than he was.
But they didn't. Definitely, I think, strongly, because if they would have given you more time to fuck around with him and his skills and everything,
maybe
you would have had that,
yeah.
like, whiplash from losing the character. That you get, like, one gun, and possibly, I don't know if there was a sword or something in the shop, like, you get one replacement for his stuff, and it gives you that taste of anticipation, like, ooh, what other gear, if you don't already expect him to betray you. But there are a lot of really strong indicators that he's going to be the one throughout the whole game.
For sure.
So, yeah, I guess I really wish that Akechi was a bigger player, like Adachi. Adachi was a really cool guy, and Akechi ended up falling short of the mark.
Yeah.
Is what I would say about it. And I don't do that in Persona 5 again, please. Is all I'm going to say. Also, let us have Sai as like a...
Let's have Sai to be romantic with.
be able to... Okay.
Whew. Persona 5 Crimson, please let us have Sai be romantic. Please let us be able to get Goro. Maybe if we max Goro optional... Persona 5 Crimson, put Goro in, have him be you save him, and then he's your guys.
Yeah, definitely. All right, sure.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Now that I've mentioned Sai, I've had like a relapse into how much I hate how you start the game.
Okay, yeah, I could talk about that. I like it.
I just had a feeling you would. And
all right, I'll start.
Okay.
Let me start. All right. I think I've come to hate that fucking trope a lot. That when I first started it, I was like, oh, okay. What an easy way to get you hooked into the game. I remember seeing like a review where someone's like, man, Persona 5 starts off with a fucking bang.
And Total Biscuit in the co-optional podcast, when it seemed like he viewed it in a positive light too, possibly more people. That was the impression I got.
See, I don't normally like that. I liked it one time in Fight Club, the movie. And then ever since then, it just seems like such a cheap fucking like way to get you hooked. But I personally really actually like how they worked it in with the plot in this game. Like, it seems kind of cheap that it's just like he's remembering everything, but in the same it also previews your mechanics in a cool way. Like when she talks about each social link before you could kind of have like an inkling of what that person's bonuses are going to be and how they're going to affect you, your progression in the game. I like that. It seems like you got a little smirk on your face, like you don't like it.
Whew, do I not like that?
All right.
What a way to take me out of the moment of getting introduced to a character than to go into this ridiculous, already mimetic for us both, Sai and Ijima saying, this person does this, and then slam her hand on the desk or whatever, like every time, and you say, why? Why am I being drawn into this where she says this shit for no reason? I don't think it previews the skills very well at all, since you can just see what the skills are anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's a whole fucking fortune-telling thing that lets you see the skills ahead. So I don't think that you thought that was a strong thing. You were just mentioning that casually.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. That's just a side thing.
That's definitely not a selling point for me in any way. I hate that they take me out of the moment with that.
Yeah, I definitely... maybe it was just in the beginning that I was digging it, but then...
The first couple times...
but then once you realize, hey, this is going to happen each time.
And a lot of the things that happened near the beginning of the game felt like more intuitive to you as a player, in which it felt more real. But yeah, the more times they do stuff later in the game, the more like hazy it all got. A lot of things in the game were like that. But back to the point is the intro to the game. And
I actually liked the way that games work. Are a lot different than movies and books and stuff where it starts off at the beginning. I personally liked playing through that. I liked playing through that again. When you were like, oh, shit's going down because I know I'm about to get fucking nabbed. And it's all the exact same shit. And people are like talking to you, oh, Joker, guy's coming. And then the guy comes and you're like, yeah, I know. And I don't know, I just thought it was cool. And I just enjoyed, I don't know what I was going to say, but I just thought there was a couple times when it seemed kind of lame.
The intro?
No.
Or are you going back already?
I'm going to when Sai flashes forward. Sai flashes forward and she's showing you your next target. I remember a couple times I was like, huh? Like it got me even more hooked. Because I was thinking, your next target's fucking MedJed. And I was like, what is that? And then I was like, how are we going to do that? And she, I don't know.
I feel like you were the target. When Atlus was designing this game, they were assuming that most people were going to view it the way you do, and I hope that most people do, because that means they enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's it didn't in any way detract from the experience for me. But I actually liked how it unfolded in that way.
I think that it made a lot of sense when they came full circle to back when you were in that moment and you got to experience that and then move forward. You know, I felt a little better about the whole thing, but at the same time, because when I first started the game, I thought this is the end of the game that they're showing you.
Yeah, I'm glad that wasn't the end of the game.
Yeah, and, you know, a lot of times throughout the game, they were, like, trying to tell you it was the end. Like, the way Akechi says, you have to disband the Phantom Thieves after this, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. When you start the game, how could you possibly forget? Kasai keeps flashing you back.
Yeah.
You are under arrest, so you must have to disband the Phantom Thieves. That makes you think. It makes you think that. That's what they wanted you to think, in order to make all the other twists after that more impactful.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't. I don't like that trope for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it added, I suppose, is the best way to put it. Starting at the start of the game, but in the future, and then, like you said, it is cheap, I think, that he was remembering it all, and then even more so when you think about the fact that some of the most important plot details that were muddled by his memory for the sake of giving you a twist, the player a twist.
For sure.
There was no other reason than to do it like that, and I see right through you, you know? And that, it irritates me. But even more so, flashing back and saying, here's your next target, blah, blah, blah. I wish that I could have been part of the team. I wish I could have been the main character figuring it out with the boys and the girls. Who are we going to go after? But instead they say, oh man, who should we go after? And I'm like, I already know, dude.
Yeah.
Because
that
Sai told me.
I remember thinking that with Kaneshiro specifically. Because, he's the third one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what? Because at Madarame, I remember they were hinting at. Yeah. And I guess they were somewhat hinting at. They do a good job of hinting at the problems around, if you just read the dialogue and stuff, of just the insignificant chatter on the side of the screen. Yeah, they do a good job of like saying, here's maybe what's coming up, I found. But Kaneshiro specifically, because I can't remember the specifics exactly, but I do remember thinking like, oh shit, what are we going to be doing next? And the way everything seemed so mysterious, given that it was some guy who's like tied to the Yakuza or whatever. But then I just knew it's just some fucking fat dude who looked like a ridiculous, like, I don't know, it just seemed, yeah, that's when I was same as you. I'd have rather figured it out, especially around that time of the game when like Makoto's trailing you and it's like everything seems, you know, it just seemed a little more high stakes than Madarame because you're trying to get more high profile targets too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Medjed was the only time I was like, oh, what? How is this going to work?
And you know it all is going to work out in the end anyway, since your character is like alive and everything.
Yeah.
That's another reason that's a poor trope to me, is because it removes any element of surprise other than the ones that they forcibly set up. And that was, you know, the whole thing with Igor, you know, with his voice and how it was like, oh man, his voice is so different. That was a good twist because there was no indication. And even more so if you were meta-ing the Persona series and you're like, that doesn't sound anything like the original voice actor.
Yeah.
It comes as that much more of a shock when you say, holy shit, that's not Igor. That wasn't Igor the whole time. And there was no way, because there was no way for that to be spoiled by Sai, because she didn't say, here's your next target. And she shows you a picture of fucking Igor, and you're like, oh, cool.
There we go. Yeah.
Who knows how much more interesting it could have been to actually have to, like, when Madarame and Yusuke are introduced, and Madarame is just in the limo, and he in English, he has that really bad, like, yeah. And you say, okay, I don't know any of these people. But instead you say, that's the guy.
That's the guy.
Your party doesn't know that that's the guy yet. But you're like, oh, cool, I'm hunting that man next.
Yeah, that does suck. Now I think about that more. That's a big bummer.
+1 for me.
Oh, never mind. This is a contest? No, that's a really good thing they did. It's because you want to know why?
-1 for me.
I'm just kidding. No, but for real. Yeah.
I think the bad thing about highlighting all that is that anybody who was already like invested into that way of storytelling, if to have changed their minds by pointing all these things out, I would feel really bad that oh yeah, that is kind of shitty, and now they like the game less. Feel really bad if that does happen.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's good to point stuff out like that.
Oops,
I mean,
sorry.
Well, if you enjoyed it, fuck it. Who gives a shit? I enjoyed it. I
still enjoyed
like
the game, but for future reference.
How about this though? Would that how I guess the whole thing with Goro and the whole big plan, would that have had as much of an impact if it was just through the story? Because you're building up to you doing that. Mm-hmm. You're like, how the fuck am I going to get out?
Of course not. No.
So I feel like in that respect, it wouldn't. I think they could have, once again, maybe they could have just switched it around so it was a little bit better executed. Like, I think I like that. I hate the trope, but I like how it's done in Persona for certain aspects, especially leading up to certain events. Like, fucking, if it was just regular interrogation stuff for maybe what you had done. Like, okay, how about this? For example, when you learn that Okumura had died, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you learn that first? Or she just says, "What did you guys do to this guy?" Right?
Yeah, I don't think she says
you're like, "What?
Killed them?"
That's another.
Yeah, you don't know that he dies until you watch the bullet.
Yeah. Ooh.
Basically,
that was cool,
and that's like, oh fuck.
But it still would have been cool to investigate a little bit more and be with your party and not know.
Yeah, be in the moment and feel more like the main character rather than somebody who is literally outside of the TV watching the main character.
Mm-hmm. Like, what if like Persona 4 you just knew? Huh? Like, there's 3 guys with personas.
This person was murdered.
Yeah, this person's going to be murdered. And then you go, oh shit, that person's going to be murdered.
And you're like, oh, I know.
I guess they do that.
Yeah.
They do that, but I mean, it would be, what if you knew that your teacher was going to die? And you go, huh?
Moroka?
Yeah, Moroka.
Yeah, but you don't do a Moroka dungeon or anything.
Yeah, but you knew he was going to die ahead of time, and there's nothing you could do to stop it. I don't know. That's a side. They did that in a way in Persona 4, we'll slant it a bit. It's kind of the same in which you are introduced to like a new character and they just start building all this shit up right before it happens. It's like impossible to miss. And yeah.
They didn't tiptoe around it at all. So I'd say that they implemented it much better in Persona 5, but I still have a lot of issues, and it all just comes from reverse storytelling in that one part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It all just flowed better. I felt more like I was discovering things with my friends with the mementos stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just a better way to do it. I don't see why they needed, in the first place, to do all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Other than Akechi, and it wasn't worth it. Because Akechi just isn't as big of a bad guy as the game wanted you to make him out to be.
Yeah.
Because he just, at the end, he's a hero anyway. He fucking, like, saves you from the other Akechi. And let me jump instantly into another point, is where the fuck were your characters in the cognition of everyone else? Ever. You see An and Kamoshida's, and anyone else in any other cognition?
No.
Why?
Well, I mean, I don't know. An was like Kamoshida's like desired sex toy,
But still,
like,
he had those fucking like pieces
the volleyball players.
Yeah, and he didn't think anything of them. He just like had them running on tracks in the dungeon and shit. Like that shows how far in the recesses of his mind they were.
Mm-hmm. I guess maybe for Kamoshida specifically, since he has run-ins with you in the public, in the real life, maybe that would make sense for him. But I don't think like Madarame or anybody else is like
Madarame. Not really.
Like
he's got Yusuke as a painting.
Yeah, but he sees Kaneshiro. You're probably not that. You're just a shit stain to him. You're just another money.
I could justify Kaneshiro seeing Makoto as an ATM, and maybe Makoto was one of those ATMs. Mm-hmm. But imagine this: Madarame watches on Yusuke and Morgana go into that room, and the door opens. So he's got that all cognizant.
Yeah.
But he doesn't see them like a cognizant version of them beyond the door. He just doesn't at all. So it's not a huge point, I'd say. It's just like they took some liberties with their own in-universe stuff that just doesn't make any sense. They made a big deal about the whole huge interrogation room fake suicide thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had to stop the cognizant version of Akechi from coming in to and like running into his real life version, and they like explained it like in a way that made sense, and that was when I realized you never see anyone else. I probably would have never thought about that if they never brought it up.
Yeah, because Akechi knew that you'd been arrested. He knew you were in that room. Mm-hmm. So then, of course, in the cognitive world, he knows that you're in that room. He knows you're in that room.
Mm-hmm. And that's all through what Sai is thinking.
Yeah. And so then, why
does no one ever show up in anyone else's?
Yeah, I mean, especially with Madarame, that's a good case.
Okumura didn't see his daughter anywhere. Like, he was trying to use her. He had her fucking husband-to-be in his mind, fucking with
They pointed that out, though.
Haru.
They said something about that. They were like,
oh, yeah?
How come Haru isn't in here? And then they just, like, said, they didn't touch on it because it would probably hurt her feelings. But they said something like that, and I was like, man, that's fucked up. Like, how come he didn't have a cognitive version of Haru? And it was just because she's so insignificant to him, I guess, that he didn't.
But her fucking husband-to-be is there for some inexplicable
just probably
reason. Just
because it's a business deal. I don't know. He's just
it's all very strange, and it's just another in-universe. They're trying to sell you all these things in their universe, right?
Yeah.
In order to understand the plot, and they'll drive it into your head a lot. That's just how video games work. Yeah. Because if you want to understand all this Memento shit and not like say, "Oh man, this is bullshit. It doesn't make any sense," they try to explain it to you. But then they can't all the time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, I don't know what it is, if they just forget about it or something. But remember that Akechi brought in a massive fucking like army of police people with his what is the range on the fucking Metaverse app?
I don't know.
Because they fucking bring people in on accident sometimes who are nearby, and sometimes they're just in the middle of public and they just do it. They're probably just evaporating into thin air.
He's like...
And they're not bringing other people with them except when it's convenient for the story.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. I remember thinking that too, especially the sheer amount of police officers. And then they arrive at the scene and they're like, isn't this like the... What was it? The fucking the office
This is supposed to be the... oh, God.
Police station?
No, it's not the police station. That's nearby.
It's like a prosecutor's office or some big, huge office.
I don't know why I can't think of the name of the building.
But yeah, either way, they arrive at this building and then they see a casino instead, and they go...
Giant casino.
This is okay.
That even all your party characters could see from like a few blocks away because it's like lights and shit everywhere.
Like, all those people know about they know now about the
They just didn't care. Every single one of them didn't care.
Yeah, maybe they were... Akechi personally... blindfolded all of them. He's like, all right, we're on a secret mission. Here we go.
You're standing right outside Futaba's door, and you've been in her room. It's not a big room. You didn't bring her with you, and you're right outside her door, and you're in the fucking middle of the desert instead of anywhere near her tomb, and you have to drive there. And then
they say something about that too, though, don't they? I thought they did. Maybe not.
And she's wandering around like her fucking house and whatever, and she just enters the world, and she's deep in the tomb.
Oh, yeah. That's right. So she starts off already.
The placement, and I was always wondering this, how far away do you have to be from a palace in order to enter the metaverse, is a question I always had. Mm-hmm. And, right now we're probably off on a tangent of shit that just doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
But everyone was like, oh, let's go right outside the fucking Target building, like right outside in order to get to it. Your character later in the story, when you're going to Shido's, the diet building, you're like being sneaky for whatever reason because, everyone thinks you're dead. And you have to be right outside the diet building and it becomes like an issue and you have to leave because people are looking at you.
Yeah.
And, maybe you could argue, oh, you would have fell in the water or some shit. But like, your characters walked to the castle from so far away at the very beginning of the game. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure entirely exactly how far away, but they walked there and it took them a little bit at least.
Yeah, there must be some kind of aura, right, around the thing because it's a navigator. It's like a GPS, and they seem to follow directions like that first time. He thinks he's going to the school, but it's because Ryuji said, "Man, fucking pervy ass Kamoshida, king of the castle," and then the thing's like, "Yep," and then you just walk there,
Yeah.
and then it just gets transformed already into a castle. So
Kanashiro's bank is like way up in the sky, but you're in the middle of fucking Shibuya, Shinjuku, wherever the fuck you are.
Mm-hmm.
I just never understood it, and it's something that they don't touch on, probably for a good reason. You don't really need all that information.
Yeah.
But it definitely stuck out to me a few times where the party characters are so goddamn stupid that they shout, "We are the Phantom Thieves" in public all the time. They draw people into the metaverse multiple times. They always enter it seems, in public, in broad daylight. Akechi easily catches a photo of Yusuke disappearing, like they weren't at all aware of their surroundings at any point. And you'd think they'd learn.
Yeah.
But they just didn't.
No, that's pretty funny.
And that's, is that high schoolers?
Yeah, sure. I mean...
so incredibly, like, stupid they don't even learn from their lessons, even though it's affecting the greater world around them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's too much for me to believe. And all of these little naggy things were kind of dragged my experience and immersion in the story down a fair amount.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to apologize to the world for that. It's just not fair.
It's just not fair. What isn't?
It's not fair. It's not fair.
It's not fair to you, like you're a victim.
It's not fair to look down on the game a little bit in the way that I do.
Uh-huh.
But for all these reasons, I think probably could be argued are irrelevant. But that, I suppose, is just subjectivity towards enjoying a piece of entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it sucks.
Yes,
but
that's bad. That sucks. But at the same time, no, yeah, that does suck, kind of.
I'm just, I suppose I'm only voicing this in case there is somebody out there who agrees with me. And I want to say you're not alone. All one of you. You got me. I also thought that shit was bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But you must have something actually relevant to talk about.
Oh, regarding the story?
Regarding anything. Something that isn't, menial little naggy things.
Oh, yeah, dude. Like, when you wake up and your character's walking animation, man, that pissed me off. I'm just kidding. No,
yikes.
I didn't really have a whole lot of little naggy things. I wish there was a fucking hold to walk button more than anything in the whole world, though. That's like
really?
One of my tiny little nags.
Why?
Because I just want to walk. I just want to walk around, and instead I'm like,
oh,
shooting.
I thought you meant like auto run. Or,
no, a hold down this button and you will walk around instead
yeah.
of sprinting as fucking full board everywhere.
Definitely. That's an omission from the previous games I can't quite understand.
So that's my little nag.
And but your character control is different in this game too. I noticed it instantly.
Yeah, way different.
You can't tilt backwards on the stick or like in any direction while moving and just instantly be going in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Your character has like weight behind them.
It was good. It controlled nice. I liked running around in the palaces a lot.
I didn't like it at the beginning of the game, and of course I did get used to it, but I think I kind of prefer the other control method, especially since with that weight and the fact that you can walk whenever you needed. Getting like through my fucking desks at school and shit was just like more obnoxious than it needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just another irrelevant little tiny thing.
Persona 5 Crimson, add a hold the walk button.
But I mean, you add that to the press X to do thing, where you want to like get to specific spots and jump up on shit or jump down, and you're just running around at max speed all the time. It gets sometimes I've gone in the wrong direction or activated the wrong thing because I don't have precise control over my movement.
Yeah.
The press X to do thing. I should explain that a little more. Basically, I really don't appreciate that there are so many things in the game that are just press X to do it. As soon as I started the game and I was in that intro to the casino thing, and it just said press X, and then I was just jumping across things. I mean, first and foremost, it looks kind of jank, because it reminds me of when you approach a ladder in a game and you like have to press a button and your character does this really awkward, like they have to walk and position themselves in front of the ladder so that they can perform the animation correctly. It always feels like that to me, but it's like I don't have a lot of control over my character, and it accentuates the issue that I'm moving from point A to point B without any real thought. I don't think that adding actual platforming to Persona is a good thing. Like, no platforming, please, but the amount of just jumping puzzles and whatever, where you even have third eye to make it even easier. You're just fucking holding X or holding the run button or whatever, is kind of ridiculous. It's like, it's the same sort of thing that people criticized Assassin's Creed for a long time ago, where you just hold run button, and you just can parkour everywhere. It's the exact same thing from that, and I guess I never got over it. Whereas I would have preferred something, you know, a Mirror's Edgy, where you have actual commands to do and you have to do it. There's skill involved, any mechanical skill whatsoever.
Yeah, Mirror's Edge that would be interesting if they could. I wonder if there'll be any of that.
I mean, that's a problem. I don't think that Persona needs platforming.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I wonder if they're going to keep the thief aspect. I could see why they maybe wanted to add it.
Yeah, that's the only justification I've got for it as well.
I'm curious if they keep doing that.
But
they add that again.
I also think that it was too much. I don't know. It all coincides with the fact that all the themes and things in the game were a bit like too outlandish and bizarre. I appreciated the old formula, and I guess it just kind of changed a bit too much for me to really enjoy. But I guess that's just kind of turn-based RPG stuff, right? You just have to accept these things if you're going to play a turn-based RPG.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely certain shit sandwiches you're going to have to eat, you know?
Okay, wow.
There are definitely certain shit salads you're going to have to munch on to...
I mean, I wasn't... I didn't really think of it like that, but hey, I mean...
It's just one way to put it.
It works, I understand. But yeah, press X to do thing, not really appreciative. It feels almost kind of insulting to my intelligence that it exists. I mean, you might as well have just made me automatically do those things without pressing X, and it would have felt just a little less coarse to me. I suppose I'll put it like that. And even then, it's like, why? You know? Do you know?
I do. Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely with the jumps. That was just... I mean, I guess you auto-jump if you're sprinting, but...
You could hold X as well, and you'll be doing all those things automatically.
Yeah, it's just kind of ridiculous that's...
But it's not like... You don't have to do that... you don't have to let go of X a lot of the time, I suppose, is another thing. You could literally just hold it and go everywhere you need pretty much all the time.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
I didn't test that out.
From the very beginning of the game, that was stuck in my mind through the whole thing, so I guess I had a bit of a negative connotation to it right away. Anyway, we'll move on from that, because clearly I'm the only one who thinks that way about it.
Yeah.
So
for the most part, I mean, it's definitely not a huge issue for me, but it does... certain aspects of it is... Kind of, it gets shoved down your throat a little bit.
I don't really want that in Persona 6, I suppose is what I'm saying. Everything we're talking about is just, hey, if you're going to make Persona 6, make it a little better in these ways.
This game's good, but just, make it better.
Yeah.
It's good, but it needs to be better. So just make it a little better next time.
And I think, we may have had really good points at the start, not to toot our horns or anything about mechanics, but I think we've gotten a little... derailed.
Yeah,
mostly me about all these other things that aren't a big deal. So, I mean, I'm curious. Do you have anything else that's?
I don't have a lot of notes, but I do want to get to one thing that I.
One thing.
Yes, one specific thing.
Do you want to talk about it now, or do you want me to go off on something else?
Do you have a lot? Do you have a lot more? Little nitpicks or like what?
Well, okay. I'll stop with the little tiny things. I mean. I'll just read off. The main character has some dumb animations, Every single time you say anything in any context, you just wave your hand in the air. Mm-hmm. Like you could be yelling or something and you just do that. Pretty sure it was like that Persona 4 as well.
Yeah.
Fuck that. But otherwise, and the over stylization. I got to bring that up. I'm so sorry.
Dude, fuck you. All right, whatever.
I got used to it. Okay, I'll say that. I can read all the menus and everything pretty well, but I had the entire first 24 hours of that game, I had a fucking headache from how much shit was going on the screen. It just took way too much effort in order to find, to move my eyes and find the information I was looking for when I wanted it. You know, I think I noticed it really specifically after a battle was over, and it's so strange because I know everyone says, "Oh, it's so cool the way you see your money and stuff pop up," and I was like, not into that at all. You got a red ribbon flying across the screen, you know, okay, cool, whatever, and I'm following that, looking for, because that's just what my eyes are attached to, and then you got shit popping up and down, and it's got all this. It's just over stylized is all I can say. It was too much, and I get why it's there. The game has really good presentation, and a lot of that is cool. I like I never had any issues at all with like the pause menu, and I really like the confidant screen. But I think it was some of the other menus in the game. They did a good job with the in combat UI.
Yeah,
but it
really
was
good.
But it was, yeah, you only have good things to say about it.
I have no issue with the stylization at all.
But the way that, like, sometimes the date would have the numbers stacked, like, vertically for some fucking reason, and then letters would just be contrast colors for no reason, and it's not, like, I don't think I'm an idiot, and it was just hard for me to read this shit.
It's too deep. It's too deep for you.
But it was just too much. It's information that I want right away. And it took too long for me to get into the rhythm and figure out like how the fuck the game's design worked to find what I needed. And maybe it's because I didn't have any prior knowledge of this game's, like, I saw very, very minimal screenshots and videos before, and I didn't know what I was getting into. And I think most people probably were a little bit prepared for that in some respect. But I'll just leave it at that. It was just too much for me. And
interesting.
And I guess you can do it in the next game, sure.
Yeah,
just tone it down a little bit.
No, keep it up. It's fucking badass. I love that shit, dude.
I don't.
Everything is so eye-catching. I don't know how you're having trouble. Like, I'm following that shit. I'm like, oh yeah, dude. It gets me pumped.
Just used to. I've played so many games. I guess I'm just used to wanting what the information absorbed instantly, and I didn't have that. And I had a huge issue with it.
Yeah, I think I want the opposite. I want it to look good because I'm gonna get the information no matter what. You know, I mean, maybe that's just the disparity. I've just played less games than you. Maybe I just want different things, but I don't know. This game is fucking. It's on a whole nother bar. Like, I can't believe the style. Like, everything looks so good, and I wish more menus. Maybe not were as as crazy and eye-catching as that, but I wish they took more time with their shitty fucking menu system in a lot of games because it's just so basic. I mean, not every game needs to have some flair with that, but Persona, dude, it just like kicked it up a whole nother notch, I feel. And it, like, everything had its own, I don't know, man. It's just a really, I've always liked the graphic design in Persona games. Like, I really like the sleek look of Persona 3. Persona 4, it was alright. I mean, nothing was too eye-catching with that. It was just like, I remember the pause menu was fucking dumb. I didn't like it. Because it was just like, hey, you open, like, and then a bunch of color bars show up on, like, one side of the screen, and then the main menu was just like yellow. And that was it. That was like,
I appreciated that, I suppose.
It was okay.
It's definitely.
But Persona 5, dude, it has so much more personality. Like, you get the feeling, like, all of it just has to do with, like, you're these kind of juvenile, sort of delinquent type thieves, and everything kind of fit into that theme. I feel like your date system looked like someone chopped it out of a notebook or a magazine and pasted it on like a ransom note, and then you were throwing a knife at the date, like the old thief thing where they'd like stab a map or something. All that was cool, and the fucking menu looked all graffiti style, dude. Oh, I loved it. Everything was so cool. I really appreciated it.
I guess that's just the difference between me and the general populace. Is it felt like not a gimmick or anything, but the appeal of it faded pretty fast, and I suppose I'm just kind of jaded to that stuff. It didn't really speak to me. You know, I liked it looking at it at first, and I said cool, and then after that, I just wanted to get to play the game, and it got in the way.
I feel you, kind of. I understand you. I don't relate. It's the opposite for me.
I get you, but you're wrong.
I get it. You're entitled to your own opinion, even if it's wrong, because the graphic design for me, kept me more interested. I knew what was going to be happening. I knew, the status, the end of battle screen, all your results was going to look like whatever it did. But every time I watched it, it caught my attention, and I appreciated it.
So I suppose, it made the game a better experience for you, and it didn't really enhance my experience at all. It made it worse for a good.
All right, you know what I'll say though? Fucking the Velvet Room. I didn't like the Velvet Room menu at all.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of those menus, I had to just adjust my muscle memory.
Yeah,
like the Velvet Room, I was just flashing through menus
super obtuse
before things would even get on the screen.
Yeah,
and I guess that feeling you have is kind of me in a lot of the menus. So
yeah, well,
people, let us know your thoughts. Hashtag good game. If you thought it was
good game. Persona 5 good game ? Or Persona 5 bad game. Period. Hashtag.
Yeah, if you thought it was a good game, hashtag Persona 5 good game.
Yeah.
And then if you didn't like the UI design, don't go on Twitter at all.
Don't do it, because you're going to get flamed because your opinion is wrong and everyone knows it.
Because
it's good.
Even though I'm in the same boat as those people, I agree with you there. They are just going to get flamed, so don't do it.
Yeah.
And then one last thing, and I'll let you get to your huge.
It's not. I want to have a conversation.
Your bunker buster.
It's not a point. It's just a conversation.
I have this thing that I realized very early in the game, and my little note is called DVDs and the Persona problem. Because
right, this sounds deep seated.
Because it is a serious problem. It's not a Persona 5 only thing. But I noticed that when I rented a DVD in Persona 5. And I rented it, and they said, come back in 1 week, bring it back in 1 week. And I said, okay, I'm not going to watch it tonight, but I'll watch it the next night, because I have things to do. And then, bada boom, I got put on fucking rails for the next entire week, and I had to return the movie late. I got off. I didn't have to pay it. But the point is, you cannot foresee the shit that is coming, and you can't plan ahead.
Especially when they put you on rails like that.
And it's because
I think Persona 5 did a way better job, though, of managing that. Yeah. Dude, Persona 4, you're skipping like whole months.
Okay, you skipped more in Persona 4, but I don't think they did a better job in Persona 5, just giving you, like...
It's kind of like Persona 5 almost gave you the appearance that it wasn't fast-forwarding when it basically
At the very end of the game, you skipped a lot of time anyway, in which I think in Persona 5, I honestly felt like there were less total days to play than there were in Persona 4. If I had to just guess, I have no idea, because you start in April, and then you end
games, I think.
You end the game essentially in December, and everything else is like fuck all. But I'm pretty sure you had more than that in Persona 4.
In Persona 4 Golden, absolutely, but maybe not base Persona 4.
Yeah, and it's fucked. I get it. You can't know what's coming ahead, of course, because that's the story. But it's the way that they, and I think everyone can probably agree to this, it's the way that fucking Morgana doesn't let you do shit.
Yeah, that's a huge thing.
For no reason. If my friends and I remember going to the museum for Madarame, and they say, let's go to the museum and scope it out, and you get home, like, how long were you at the fucking museum? And you
like
can't do anything at home
10
afterwards?
hours.
But you can literally, and I've said this a million times, you can, at night, you can just go to Shinjuku, and then you can say, oh, forgot something, and you can go all the way to Shibuya, and then go to Kondo Chapel and say, what's up, Hifumi, and go back to Sojiro, all within that same evening.
Yeah.
And have time to do anything you want.
Yeah, it's...
And that's just a gamey thing. That's a meta thing, but...
It's so funny to just imagine realistically. Like, your character's like, I want to do this. And then Morgana's like, you're pretty tired. You better go to bed. And then you just, like, Morgana just fucking stink eyes you to go into bed. And you just have to go.
Absolutely insane. And then you
shouldn't
send
do
the
that
calling
today.
card. I'm so surprised they let you do anything when you send the calling card.
Yeah.
You should just go to bed because you got a big day tomorrow. Like they do that for all the other shit too, when it's not a big day. But you're about to go fight the boss, the fucking boss.
The boss.
And Morgana says, "Yeah, you can stay up all night and make coffee."
Yeah, make some infiltration tools all night. And then, yeah.
I guess there's not a lot that needs to be said because it's like obvious.
Everyone, it's a big thing for everyone that I've seen. Everyone's point, as so many people pointed out.
That seems
it's
like
ridiculous.
I mean, in the way that it's Morgana, it's probably funny, but it's been in every Persona game where you just are on rails too much.
Yeah.
And just giving you those half days, I think, is probably just a solution. You know, it kind of makes it unbalanced in the sense that you have more nights to work with, but maybe just don't have those people available on some nights.
Yeah.
Or make more I don't know.
Night folk.
But it's just insane that you have things that rely on days like that, renting movies and things like that, and then you just can't foresee what's coming, and you get put on rails.
And have to pay for it.
If
you hadn't, you know.
Insult to injury right there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know if you do ever have to pay for DVDs. I never had to pay for them once. I returned them like every single time because I got put on rails every single time I rented one.
Huh.
It's the worst thing about Persona. I'd say.
Yeah, the scheduling.
Almost probably it's got to be the number one issue with the entire series. It's funny
because that's one of the things that draws me in, you know, because I like the daily life simulator thing. But
no, I don't think that's bad about it.
Yeah,
it's just the way that they've been handling it.
They got to figure out a way to they should just find maybe balance the points a little differently. But it would, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I've brought it up before that social links. It was after I played Persona 4. Social links confidants. I don't see the purpose of not getting a rank up instantly because it's just a test of you saying what that person wants you to say, not what you want to say. So it doesn't feel like a real relationship. It just seems like you're sucking every single person's dick really hard, as much as possible.
For real.
And I was save scumming as much as possible so that I could get all the confidants max my first playthrough because I didn't want to do it in another playthrough because it's just too much to ask.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes I'd save before I'd try out a night confidant the first time. And then I don't want to reset my whole game after I'm like, oh, maybe I could do that better. And then the next thing I know, I'm on rails for a few days before I can even get the chance to even access the menu to load my fucking game. It blows my mind. Atlus fix. Atlus, please. ATLS.
Find some different way. Find some other way.
Just doing that. Just give you more fucking, let me access my goddamn load menu. You know, at the end of the day. You know?
Yeah.
Sometimes instead of just drawing me into the very next day and we're doing dumb stuff.
Yeah. Or, yeah, I wonder. Very curious issue.
You think they're going to do anything about that in the next game, or do you think they're just going to same old?
Maybe with this huge Morgana issue, if people actually
I guess we're in the internet age now.
Yeah, so maybe people will complain about it. And, with the way everything's set up, though, I just wonder how it would work. You know, do you have any solution for that? Because there's so obviously, you know, basically a boss a month, you know, and figuring out in such a story-driven game like this, making it seem plausible that they can discover this person and that they're behind a certain thing. You know, you have to be somewhat on rails for some of that, but you definitely shouldn't be just coaxed into going to bed to advance to the next cutscene. I mean, maybe what is that? So you can save? Like, why aren't you just... I remember cutscenes where you're just sitting on bed talking to Morgana. And then you're just talking to Morgana, and then you have control, and then I was like, all right. And then it's just like, let's go to bed. And I'm like, we're just fucking on bed. Why didn't we just go to bed and advance me to the next day? It just is like an illusion of choice. Is it just to save your game?
I think it's just to save your game, to be totally honest.
Yeah, it just has to be.
Which is surprising. Like, foresight for a game that has a lot of things it seems like they're lacking that same foresight. It's just an issue that needs to be addressed in some way, and I think definitely just an easy solution, not the best solution, is to just give you those nights and not let your dumbass cat tell you can't do anything.
Yeah. Even just having myself go, I am tired, rather than a cat going.
Yeah, that would have made it like less of an issue. It just just the way you perceive it. But,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't fix the actual fucking problem.
But for real. Yeah, it wouldn't fix the problem, but it would make it less obnoxious. And I could understand it more if my character was like, man, I was standing up for 2 hours at this fucking museum exhibit. Man, I'm tired. But instead Morgana's like, oh, you want to pull-ups? Let's not do that.
Let's not do that today.
Oh, you want to watch a movie? Let's go to bed.
In New Game Plus, I was trying to do stuff, because I had just come from the regular game where I had some control, and Morgana isn't there for a while, and it was just the main character saying, oh man, this...
And it makes more sense that way, but...
it makes more sense,
it
but it's
doesn't
still
fix
garbage
the problem.
tiered bullshit.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's that.
That's that.
There's honestly wasn't. We didn't even need to say that much because everyone knows that's the dumbest fucking thing.
Yeah, for real.
And maybe to touch on the end of the game, the fact that like the end of the game you are suddenly kind of put on rails big time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I was of all the times that they said this is the end of the game coming up, and I didn't believe them. And then this time it just was, and I was suddenly like, I couldn't leave Mementos, and then you're in Shibuya, but, everything's just beyond the point of no return, and you can't, there's nothing else. You can't, like, sell or buy your items, like, at all anymore, until the game is over.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing to be done after you beat the last boss, except talk to the confidants. There's nothing else to do, Yeah. And I'm just surprised that there's no, like, extra dungeon or, like, more days to spend with your friends.
I think,
There's nothing. The game is over, and I wouldn't say it was anticlimactic, but, there's just nothing else. There's nothing. The only option from that point, unless you have a save from when you had days to go, and this is just still part of the Persona problem of having a date system, is that there's nothing else to do anymore because it's the end of the game. You have to start a new game if you want to keep playing.
Oh yeah.
And that's atrocious. Especially since it's so much effort to get back to a reasonable part of the game in New Game Plus. I mean, you already know I've spent so many hours in New Game Plus just trying to have any fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm in all the bullshit parts of the game where I just have to fast forward through all the cutscenes and say whatever. It doesn't matter at all what I say.
Yeah.
So you have these big open parts of the game, as people describe them, but you're really just choosing what one thing you want to do in that half of the day. And it feels more restrictive than it should be because you don't have any of that time at the end of the game for no reason. Like, why? I wish you could just have a free day to run around and, like, go to a dungeon or something and just, like, fuck around for nothing, for no reason, but you can't at all. It doesn't seem like it's supposed to be something that would be required in a game like that, but at the same time, I invested, 130 hours in the game, and I'm not allowed to do anything else except go back through hours and hours and hours of the beginning of the game, like, go through this straight line. You have no control anymore.
Yeah.
But I could spend so much time in Persona 4 running back and forth through all the dungeons, re-experiencing them. You want to see another palace, or you want to see a palace again, you have to go all the way back through the game to get to it. And I guess that's just a problem with video games.
I'm curious if they will make some sort of golden edition of Persona 5 if there's going to be more endgame content,
I think that's an easy way to go for them.
I would hope so, because I felt the same way. I mean, you're obviously working towards the end of the game, but having put in so much time, and then the last boss was just a single form and didn't feel like too much of a test of strength. It would have been cooler. Yeah, it would have been nice to have another thing to do.
And you're like, I mean, what are you doing? You're fucking...
Are we asking too much? Is that kind of fucked up to say, oh, we trolled through we got through this whole fucking game, and we beat it, and we played so much? I want more. It's like, is that...
Well, I think I'm just questioning the design more than I'm asking for more.
Mm-hmm.
It's that, why are there all of these crazy, super strong, like, shadows in the last area of the game? So many, and you're gaining levels like fucking crazy, like never before. There's no other place to farm like the last dungeon.
Yeah.
It just, everything else pales in comparison, more so than you might expect.
Yeah.
But there's not one time when you can go back to the shop and get money to like summon personas during all of that shit. So you are just kind of scrounging by. If you like, that's the only time to have your free time with the game is if you have a save in that last area. But the only way to make money at that point is just going to be like you have to hold up shadow after shadow after shadow to get enough money to summon shit.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? That's such BS. Not having easy access to the shop and to a dungeon to just do what you want feels kind of insulting.
Yeah, to how much you've put into the game.
I get
and
it.
then it just puts you on rails.
I get it's the story, There's no arguing it's the story, and I get that.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why all of those days at the end of the game were skipped, and they couldn't, like, take away your confidence if they had to. Your confidants, just take them away. Not let you hang out with them because they didn't let you anyway in the first place. And just say, here's 3 days, make a save, and then just fuck around in the dungeon. Fuck around in Mementos or do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Go through a funny portal and go to palaces and just look around.
Yeah.
But instead, it is officially over, no going back. And I have a bit of a problem with that because there are so many other games where I feel like all of that time I invested was worth it. But every time in Persona, it's like, I really want to make all these Personas for my team, and I mean, you don't even need them, ever. There's no real test of strength for any reason. I went in pretty half-assed into the last boss, and it was an absolute goddamn joke.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make like the level 90 Personas. I was like level 70 something. What is the point of all that extra shit? Even on a harder difficulty, there's no point to it.
Yeah.
I suppose that's the question to be had.
There's no super endgame stuff, and it sucks that you have to go through New Game Plus to fight the twins, which is supposed to be... It's always the hardest thing in Persona games is to fight the Velvet Ring.
And is it hard because you have to be like max level, have crazy shit, or is it hard because you are like early in the game?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's
either.
anyone's guess. I've never done it before.
But it's just it is part of the Persona problem of having a fixed date system that makes the story entertaining as you're going through it, and then leaves a really bitter taste in my mouth at the end of every single game.
Just because there's no end game. You didn't work towards anything other than just to...
Yeah, the emphasis is so strong on the story that if you wanted to test your limits and optimize the way that you are playing the game and do all these other things, there's no room for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they give you some of the options for those overpowered personas that are super high level, but there's no place to use them, and it's hard to get them unless you go way out of your way. And then other than just having it, the game doesn't give you a place to bring it and flaunt it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so the fact that it's in the game almost feels like it was just something they did just because. And that it has been an issue with Persona 3 and 4 and now 5.
Yeah, definitely.
Some of the stuff in Golden, I think, remedied that. I think that the Marie dungeon...
Yeah, that was a cool dungeon, actually.
Because it had the mechanics that made, like, Victory Cry and Invigorate and stuff, like, more useful.
Yeah.
It wasn't perfect.
Yeah, they should make more dungeon-type things where you have to almost pre-build a team to, like, counteract some effect of the dungeon or something.
That would be a cool idea, because, like we said before, as it stands even on hard mode, not the super hard mode, but the regular hard mode,
mm-hmm.
you just gravitate towards your two or three
dudes,
your handful of guys
boys
that just fucking clear everything, and then you make it to the next like leg of the place where they start switching the enemies, and you say, here's my other 3, and you don't even have to fucking plan for it because you can just go back to the Velvet Room and get whatever you want.
Yeah.
So the fact that you have 12 slots is just for fucking Arcana building and fusing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good formula in a lot of ways, but it feels...
It needs more ironing out.
It feels...
It's still a pretty young franchise, the way that it's, you know...
It feels old, but it is still kind of like just getting out there.
I mean, I don't remember when Persona 3 came out, but if you think about it, there's only been 3 mainline games of this formula, you know? Like, it's interesting. I think they're definitely really taking steps in good directions. Like,
It'd be hard to argue otherwise, yeah.
Each game does alleviate some problems of the past games. And let's just hope that they keep advancing in that way.
No doubt about that. Doubt.
Yeah.
Persona 4 updated Persona 3's stuff so immensely, I was blown away. Persona 5, I don't think, has done as much.
The combat, I think, is
It's faster.
I love it a lot more. Yeah, it's much faster.
It's much faster. I appreciate it. I guess I didn't feel it as much, and I played Persona 4 recently.
There's more levels to it, too, I think. The Baton Pass and all that just adds a whole nother... I really like that.
Good features.
I'm thinking, hope they, keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of
those are the good things. And all the other, pretty much every single other thing I've said is bad shit.
The daily life sim needs some
improvement for sure.
Because if you think about it, that really hasn't evolved at all.
Yeah, they just said, oh, man, we need to give you more incentive to do it at all.
What's up? Hey, guess what? Guess what the biggest addition is? You have 5 social stats.
You got Oya.
3. You got Oya. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, the only addition is they made social links more relevant, more, you want to attain them, you have more incentive to, you want to, because they give you bonuses. They give you more free time to kind of catch up on stuff that, they give you free, not free time, they give you free slots of time in a day, like your time to read a book on the train.
Those were very nice cool additions.
So I just hope that they, can, I don't know, figure out a way to make it so you're not on rails so much, and I don't know, man. And just do something. Fucking fix something.
I'll let you go into your big bunker buster after I say social stats don't really need them.
Yeah, they
anymore.
need to figure out something else with social stats.
It's just a gate mechanism.
Yeah.
Is literally all it is.
I don't think I ever had any sort of kindness check. I don't think I had any sort of...
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like,
so
if
Jiro,
they had those...
So Jiro's the only kindness check I think I remember, needing level 5, and then you get kindness for hanging out with them after that, which made no fucking sense.
Well, in the story, I could see having guts is the only thing that I've ever seen that you need to have to respond in a certain way. Even in Persona 4, too. And I was like, why don't they have... That would be cool. They should do that more. You should have different responses.
There were definitely a lot more in Persona 4 that I saw. There were a lot in Persona 4 that I remember.
I wonder if there was a complaint.
I remember only one in Persona 5.
Yeah, and it was just, hey, apologize. And that's it. And there was never any other need for it. And it just seems weird that they bar off confidants with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just the... knowledge is only needed. I could see knowledge. Knowledge I can get for getting a good rank or whatever on your fucking exams, but everything else just seems like there's not a whole big, huge need for it. Proficiency is cool because you can make extra tools, but once you get the fucking lockpick, what do you need tools for? I don't know. They could stand to fix that. But,
doubt.
All aside from that, I really like the game a lot. A lot. I mean, I know we've been nothing but talking shit on the game all day. Yeah, I've been listening here, white-knuckled, fucking pissed off, listening to you yakking about these insignificant things. It's a good game.
9 out of 10, I'd say.
You would, really? Even with all that?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I'm seeking the betterment of the game. A lot of these things...
You're a crusader.
Yeah, all these things combined is -1 fucking point.
Okay.
From a perfect score, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think it is good in a lot of ways. Best JRPG in fucking years.
Yeah.
And there are so many little problems that they could stand to fix, but it's not like they make them a bad game, even compounding them all. They just all make me kind of say, man, why?
Shit, missed opportunity.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And that... I don't know. If anybody thought I thought it was a bad game, they'd be wrong.
Fucking see that, secure that, fellas and ladies.
Fellas only.
But yeah, moving on. This is going to be less about mechanics and story. I'm more interpretation wise with this. I want to have a conversation because I was playing.
I want to have
through
a
the game.
conversation.
Yeah, this is all just on rails conversation. I want a real freeform and free reaching convo here.
Yeah, we scripted everything else that was.
I was
before
reading
this.
from a script that whole time, but all right. So I was playing through the game, and I wonder if anybody else felt this, but I kind of felt. I know they talked about it a little bit in the game, but I actually felt like it was kind of creepy how the Phantom Thieves would change people's hearts like that. I felt like uneasy sometimes because it just felt wrong to me in a way. Like, obviously these people are pieces of shit. They're shit people, and they need some sort of they need justice. But wow, dude, the way they instantly transform and like become like these mindless dudes who just apologize, it's like it seems almost like they don't. I know they say, man, they're crushed by the weight of their sins that they've committed, but in a way it just seems like all of them kind of follow a similar script where they just cry and say I'm sorry. Like I know they want to get punished, but it just seemed like they don't deserve it, you know. Like it just seemed almost especially when fucking Kamoshida comes out and he says I'm going to kill myself because of this, and I was like, holy shit, that's kind of fucked up, dude. Like, they changed these guys' hearts against their will into this almost like a mindless apology repetition doll. And and then the fact that you don't really get to see anybody after, like, what is their life like after that? Are they fucked up forever? Like, it just seems. For a while I was like, dude, are the Phantom Thieves being just with their actions? I mean, these guys need to be punished, but I just remember it was just weird at certain parts. I was getting kind of creeped out, especially with Shido too. I was like, Shido, this fucking shithead, and the way he's like, oh, instantly, I'm so sorry, bro. And I was like, what, dude? This is so weird. I don't know. That's what I was thinking of.
That's something that I think the game wanted you to actually think about. It was an interesting thing that they would bring up is, are the Phantom Thieves good? Because normally nobody tries to make you question your actions until the end, and you're like, oh shit, what?
Yeah.
Am I a bad guy? And yeah, I think it's super fucked up.
You think it's fucked up too?
Way fucked up.
Okay, cool. Because I was like, man. And the fact that they never really touch on it, you know, as the characters. Do they? They don't really go through any, like...
They say it a couple times. There was no, like, morality crushing
via
scenes.
Text, they're like, are we doing the right thing?
Yeah,
and then
that's,
you go,
that's
yes.
about all they did.
Yeah, like... So...
And, like, a lot of the bosses were always like, you guys are evil, not me. And then you're like, fuck off, dude.
Yeah,
and then you
like...
just beat him.
Yeah, but I feel like that could have been a very interesting crisis. Because, holy shit, I couldn't help but think...
The purpose of, like, apologizing about something isn't that you are apologizing or just feel really bad. It's the act of getting there via your own reasoning from where you once were.
Yeah.
And they're just fucking flipping the coin instantly of their heart to the other side.
And it's like they didn't go through any of that like crushing. I guess they all do at the end, of course, but they didn't realize it themselves. That crushing, like,
and
holy fuck.
That's like the point of being apologetic.
Yeah.
You know? They missed the point, and that's the conundrum that the Phantom Thieves have, that I'm sure is what was supposed to be conveyed, is that somebody needed to stop these people, you know?
Yeah.
Somebody fucking had to.
Yeah.
And
I guess the whole thing is everyone's bringing their own justice. Like, that's what it is about. It's like, these guys are bad, and we're going to put our justice upon them, and you may not see it as right, but we do, and that's all that matters.
That's why I think always justice is like a really good, interesting topic for any sort of entertainment, because it's so gray, obviously, if you can't fucking glean that from this conversation, because there are so many ways to stop somebody from doing that, but sometimes you just don't have the means in modern society, especially, you know?
Yeah.
And the Phantom Thieves, you know, how the fuck were they going to stop Kamoshida from fucking raping everybody, you know? They had no other choice because no one would listen to them. And, you know, so at that point, it is a necessary evil.
Yeah.
They are vigilantes. It's as simple as that. And they, I mean, you know, people have been touching on that shit since, like, fucking Batman.
Yeah, that's true.
And way before that.
I'm just curious, like, it wouldn't make sense for a game, of course, but I feel like with Kamoshida, they were kind of justified because they were personally being affected by these actions.
And they did touch on that, too.
Yeah. But then, oh, yeah, that's right. I remember making a point about that, thinking, man, if they're going to reevaluate why they're doing this each time, I was going to start getting annoyed. But they kind of tackled it in different ways after each palace and how they were being affected by it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool. Because it was always a different thing. It wasn't like, oh man, are we doing the right thing every time? And they have to just keep cementing it in their head, like, yeah, we are. But instead, it was like, holy shit, are we allowed? Like, is this something that we can? You know, I don't know. It was cool, but I'm curious. Like, it's fucked up, man, and especially when they just kind of go after Okumura out of nowhere, and it's just like, who? Seems like there were just so many options of actual other people, but yeah, they just got swayed. They got played by that poll thing, and popularity. But I don't know. Justice, fuck, man.
Justice.
It's tough. But yeah, I just remember. I'm glad. I hope other people see that too, like actually feel that. Because when I was playing, I just didn't. I didn't fully agree with the Phantom Thieves, but I knew it had to be done, and I hope that's.
I knew it had to be done. You know, they gave me a choice to do it or not to do it.
Yeah, that'd be. Should we keep doing this? No, we have to stop, and that's the end.
You know, I got a game over at the very beginning of the game.
How?
Instantly, at the beginning when I think it's Igor, new Igor. He's saying, like, oh, do you accept the above? And I was like, there isn't anything above. You didn't ask me a question. And I said, no, I don't accept.
Terms of the whatever? They're like, this game is a fictitious story.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he doesn't ask a question. He says, do you agree to the terms above? And I was like, what terms? No. And I said no, and I got a game over. He said, fuck off.
Nice.
And it was over.
That's cool.
I don't know why I brought that up, but hey.
We got to see what those other endings are. I'm really curious.
For when you say, fuck my friends?
Yeah, fuck all my friends. Gonna sell them all out.
Yeah, why? Whew. I like that they give you the illusion of choice in so many ways, and then they give you an actual choice, and it's dumb as hell.
Yeah.
Persona 4 giving you the choice to fuck around with Adachi and, like, burn the evidence was real.
Mm-hmm.
That was real time
That
shit.
was cool.
Ace Detective. And then in this game, you can just say, yeah, I want a game over right now. Yeah, sure.
Do I want a game over when I actually beat the game, or should I just get a quick one right now? Okay.
What a question. Maybe
Do you want game over now or later? That should say.
Yeah. If only there was an achievement for looking at that, then I would have, but I didn't. And there you have it. You know, on your are the Phantom Thieves good or bad thing, Sai does mention later, you know, you could have stopped at Kamoshida.
Oh, yeah.
Why didn't you? And everyone's like,
I wanted to get famous.
Yeah.
Ryuji.
Yeah, Ryuji's a fucking piece of shit for
I love
such a huge portion of the game.
Yeah, he is.
I like that the way that everyone gets their personas. It was really visceral at first.
Yeah.
And I said this way earlier, but it got, like, worse.
You mean it gets less visceral?
Yeah, with each person who gets it.
I noticed that too.
Yusuke, like, just goes and takes his mask off, and you hear, like, the faintest little noise of it coming off.
Not
you
only
see
that,
a shit ton of blood, but there's, like, he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, not only that, but, like, the whole, like, I remember when the main guy, he looked like he had the fucking, like, his head was gonna blow up. Mm-hmm. And he was like, wah! And he's got tears and is, like, drooling and shit, and I'm like, holy fuck,
yeah,
dude.
That's so cool.
And Ryuji was like that, too, and then, yeah, ever since then, it's just been like, whoop, and then they pull their mask off, and there's a Persona. What's up? Yeah.
What's up, Persona?
Ooh, I got a little bit of a headache, and then, yeah, what's up, Persona? That's what Ryuji says.
It's, oh, man. You know, it reminds me of how your character gets their persona in number 3. You know, that was so cool. But everyone else just already has it. Mm-hmm. You don't get to see anyone get their persona, I don't think, except maybe Fuka. But,
yeah,
you know, this game drove home having your persona isn't all fun in games.
Yeah.
You know, the evoker didn't hurt. This hurt. And that's cool. That says a lot about Persona, if you will. And
I wonder why that happened. I wonder why
they stopped being as visceral.
Because I remember On was pretty fucked up too.
Yeah.
Like, but then ever since it was like Yusuke, and it was just kind of, you don't see Haru really, right? Hers is pretty easy because she already kind of had a persona or whatever. But or whatever they decided to do.
Makoto was, she was so mad that it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I liked how it was at the beginning. I'll just put it out there like that.
Yeah.
Ripping your mask off and having it hurt like a lot and just be so bloody, and that's so cool.
It was.
That is so cool, and I wonder why they changed that.
Fix it. Atlus, fix it.
For Persona 5 Dancing All Night, can you fix that?
I want the Persona 5 Dancing All Night, manage the time a little bit better. I want to be bringing my stats up. I want to be having all my social links in Persona 5 Dancing All Night. Add them all in there.
Yeah.
Bring back Akechi in there.
Oh, yeah, Akechi's going to be dancing up a storm.
If he's not in there, I'm going to be mad.
He will be. Don't worry. Just don't. He'll be in there.
All
if
right,
they can bring Adachi in, they're going to bring Akechi in.
Okay.
They're two brothers from another mother.
Yeah, I really hope. If they don't, it's getting a 2 out of 10 for me. Preemptive score.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, anything else?
No, I think that's it. That's all I got.
All right, folks. That about wraps it up.
All right. Thank you all very much for listening, and we will try to, keep this updated.
Don't forget to go on to Twitter, #GoodGame, if you think that the UI design was way, way good.
Mm-hmm. #GoodGame.
Don't forget to don't go to Twitter if it gave you a little bit of a headache.
If you thought the game was bad or the UI... It's not. If you think the game is bad, don't say anything about it because it's good, and then you're wrong. But if you think that the UI is bad of the game, you can go to Twitter, but don't say anything about it. Keep it a secret.
Yeah. Okay. That seems reasonable.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks for listening.
Close it.